Am I the a-hole for telling my husband his job as a stay-at-home dad is only easy because I help out? I tried to post it on other subreddits, but they kept removing it because my account is new. I'm writing this from the guest bedroom because my husband and I had a fight. So, the thing is, my husband is a stay-at-home dad. 3 years ago, he wanted to quit his job and take care of the house and children, 6 female and 2 male. I work a decent job and earn most of the money. My husband takes pride in being a stay-at-home dad. He always brags about how it's the easiest job in the world and women are just complaining for no reason. But the truth is, I help him with the chores as much as I can. In the morning, I wake up and fix the breakfast for them. My husband gets our daughter ready for school. I also do meal preps for lunch. All he has to do is assemble them and cook it. I pack my and my daughter's lunch. When I'm at work, he does the cleaning and spends time with our son or does his thing. Later, when I come home, I cook the dinner and give my son a bath, help my daughter with her schoolwork, or I play with them for some time until bedtime. Besides that, whenever we do laundry, I fold the clothes that he washes and put them away. And during deep cleaning of our house, we split the tasks 50-50. I also handle all the doctor's appointments. This system works really well, but I hate that he thinks my contribution is not enough, that he does all the chores and I do not even lift a finger. Moreover, he has a blog and TikTok where he films his days. He also makes posts about how easy it is to be a stay-at-home dad, and women just complain and full of it. It is the easiest job in this world. I'm glad he likes it, but I hate he thinks he is superior to everyone in invalidating their experience. I grew up in a house where my dad didn't even lift a finger, and my mum did literally everything around the house. He was the fun dad doing bare minimum. So I do not want that to happen to my husband. Also, it is my house too. I believe if both people do chores, the stress becomes less. Also, I know many of my friends who struggle with doing chores as a stay-at-home mum. I also know women who work and still do the majority of the chores, and his comments make me irritated. So, yesterday my friend Ashley came to visit. She is a mother of 2. Her son probably has ADHD and very much active. She has trouble handling her son and gets no help from her husband. Her son breaks a cup in our house. Ashley was saying sorry. My husband cleaned it up and she was complaining how exhausted she is. My husband scoffed and told her, "You must be doing the parent thing wrong, because I'm a stay-at-home parent too, but I've never had a problem. My wife barely does anything around the house and it's so easy. Maybe I should give you a lesson or two." I can see Ashley was upset. I understand why. Later that day I told him what he said to Ashley was very rude. My husband acted as if he said nothing wrong and was honest. I pointed that he doesn't do all the chores. I help him with at least 40%. That's why he thinks it's easy. He again argued that those chores are not significant compared to what he does. I told him he is being mean to everyone. We got lucky that our kids are easy and not active. Most of the kids are hard to handle. He again scoffed and said how hard can it be? We argued about this and he told me I'm being ungrateful because no man would ever sacrifice like he did. I'm upset and gave him some space. Was I wrong to point it out? Edit. I just want to point out I have no issues in him being a stay-at-home dad. I just don't like his attitude towards it and the way he thinks it's the easiest job in this world, because to me and most of the people, it is still a job that has no vacation days. Geez, yeah, this sounds like the kind of guy that would cry over not getting a participation award. He sounds pretty up himself. Let's go to the comments. Why are you okay with him putting down your contributions and devaluing you, especially in front of your children? His attitude is a problem and your children are being exposed to this daily. You would be the a-hole to yourself if you allow this to continue. Stop enabling him to put others down and stand up for yourself. Stop doing his job for him and let him step up, or as he is apparently telling others, doing everything around their house. If he wants a chance to prove to everyone that being a stay-at-home dad is so easy, then you should support him and give him that chance by letting him do what he claims to already have to do, which is everything. It might be time for a week-long business trip. Let him cope 24/7 and see if it's really so easy. I was a stay-at-home mum. My children are now adults. I did all of the household chores, laundry, cooking and cleaning. I did all of the yard work. We had an acre. I volunteered in their schools and music programs. That often took 30 hours a week. My husband did story time and often took care of bedtime. I considered the household tasks to be my job. I wouldn't have dreamt of telling someone else how they were doing it wrong. What an entitled and terribly rude comment. And he has a blog to tell strangers how to better manage their time? He doesn't even cook dinner, for heaven's sake. Please. Not the a-hole. He sounds exhausting and unaware of how self-centered he is. Parenting isn't a competition between him and you. It's a team sport where you both have to participate. Sounds like you're doing more in context, in the home and outside the home. Love a stay-at-home dad, but he needs a swift kick in the ass for being full of himself and not valuing your contributions and his misogynistic comments. Stop doing what you're doing and let him truly be a stay-at-home dad, not the a-hole. Yeah, hard to disagree there. Let's go to the update. Okay, I took everyone's advice and stopped working my part of the chores. I did tell him beforehand, since he thinks my contribution to the housework is nothing, then I'll stop doing everything altogether. I told him since he thinks being a stay-at-home dad is easy, then he should have the full experience of it. My friend's husband doesn't even lift a finger around the house, so I wouldn't too. He was obviously upset. He wanted to argue I cannot do this to him. He even tried to pull the incompetence card. I told him I'm not going to do my portion of the job at home. I also gave the typical excuse, I work all day at my office so that we can survive on one income. It is selfish for him to expect me to do housework. That's what I did. I didn't do any housework. I didn't wake up in the morning and make breakfast. My husband had to do it. It wasn't hard for him, but I can see he was moody. I asked him to prepare my lunch because that is also my job. He refused at first, but then I told him he said he will do all the household chores too. That includes my lunch as well. He only packed me a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I didn't do meal prep for lunch. It was his to figure out. At night when I came home, I didn't make dinner. I asked him to do it. He was shocked, but did it anyways. I didn't give my son a bath. He is fussy, which ticked my husband off. I only helped my daughter with her homework. I didn't help him with the laundry. The first few days he didn't say a word, but after a week it was showing that he is getting exhausted. He was getting more and more angry at small stuff, and usually cleaning would cool him off, but whenever he sees a mess, he throws a tantrum. On the weekends, I went to my mother's house to relax. That weekend, we were supposed to clean our bathrooms. He did that all by himself. As the days progressed, I can see him being really angry at me. Even I admit it has affected our intimacy a lot. At last, after 2 weeks, he told me, and basically yelled, that I proved my point. Things are back to normal, but I can see he's very distant with me. Last night I asked him to talk to me. He said he knew what game I was playing, but he did not appreciate me treating him like garbage and not considering his feelings. I told him it was his words that being a stay-at-home dad is easy. I just gave him the full experience of it. He kept denying that I should have been more supportive. All these weeks he felt like nobody and so underappreciated. He felt invisible. He started to hate me for not giving an F and dumping everything on him. He's still not talking to me. We have booked a couples therapy session next week. Let's see if our relationship sustains or not. I don't know, it just sounds like the husband's pride took a big hit after that little experiment. Let's go to the last update. This will probably be my last and final update. I wanted to let you guys know, we are not getting a divorce like some of you hoped and cursed me out in my PMs. Like seriously, who wishes to a stranger that their husbands should cheat on them? We did go to counselling, and yes, I sincerely apologised for my childish behaviour because of the Reddit post I made. We discovered a lot of things about us and our relationship at the counselling sessions. Firstly, I apologised to him and explained why I did that. I wanted him to feel like it's not easy if you don't have help. I also mentioned my mother's experience in being the caretaker of the family, and doing it all alone is exhausting, which I think now is a stupid way to get my point across. But I was hurt and very annoyed that he thinks women just complain about housework when most of them, I'm sure, don't have any help from their spouses. He expressed that he gets it, and those few weeks when I didn't help him really took a toll on him. He doesn't get tired easily, but since he was doing all of it, it was tiring him. I acknowledge that. After a lot of talking and communicating, we came to the root cause. He said that sometimes he feels insecure about himself, like he is not doing enough for us. All of his guy friends have jobs. They provide for their family. His friend bragged about taking his wife to vacation in Greece. He felt small compared to that because he only made us dinner and gave me a massage. On the other hand, I gifted him a very expensive watch. He felt like he was supposed to be the provider of this family, but he feels really small because I'm out here doing good in my career and he feels stuck. It was one of those moments that made me cry. I liked it when he made dinner for me and gave me a massage. He is a good cook. I asked him if he wants to go back in the workplace. If that is the case, he will have my full support. I know then things will change a lot. We both have to make compromises, but it will be worth it because I love him and he is the best husband anyone could ask for. He says he doesn't want to handle the pressure of workplace. Last time he crashed and decided to quit. He likes being a stay-at-home dad, but also wants to earn. So he's looking for a part-time job while doing what we used to do. I encouraged him to look into freelancing and remote work. He did find one, but it's low pay, so the search for a decent job is still in the hunt. And he did apologize to my friend Ashley. He realized not everyone has it easy. I mean, we hit the jackpot with the kids because they're pretty quiet. People have different struggles. I know he is sincere because he deleted his blog posts about being a stay-at-home dad being easy. Also, unrelated, Ashley is getting a divorce. Good for her, I guess. We are fine. Our children are fine. We still have one more session of therapy left. Our intimate lives are better. We found a way to better communicate with each other rather than being petty. I was scared that our marriage will collapse, but I'm glad we stood strong. Oh, great, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, good lessons learned here, I think. Hopefully they're on the up from here. Anyway, give me your thoughts and we'll go to the next story. Alrighty, we're on the same subreddit. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining my daughter's graduation? My daughter and I have been estranged for about 5 years now, and have recently reconnected and are working on, slowly, repairing our relationship. As part of this, she's been airing out various grievances she's been holding against me all these years, as she doesn't think holding on to them is conducive to a healthy relationship. A lot of these things are petty teenage grievances I can't believe she hasn't let go of yet, but one of them stuck out to me. I mentioned it to my husband and he expressed disbelief and disappointment in me for my actions at the time. I maintain that I didn't do anything wrong, but his reaction has me curious. Her email to me about the situation. My graduation was another thing. I don't know if you remember, but you refused to let Gran come, even though I told you how much I wanted her there because of how she'd supported me throughout uni. When I told you I invited her, you said you wouldn't come if she was there, so I had to disinvite her by lying about there being a limit on tickets per person. As if that wasn't bad enough, you and Daddy refused to sit with each other, take pictures with me, or even go out for a celebratory meal afterwards. I have one picture from my graduation, one, and it wasn't even the professional one. It was just one my friend took on her phone of me. I don't think you and Dad dealt with your split very well at all in regards to your children, but it really hurt me that the both of you would be so selfish about that. I just wanted one afternoon. For background, I'm estranged from my own mother and have split up with her father. She says it was selfish of me not to allow my mother to attend her graduation or to spend extra time with her father, but I think it was selfish of her to ask that of me. It's bad enough that she continues to keep in contact with her grandmother when I asked her not to. Anyway, I want to know if I really was the jerk here. Geez, this woman really has no idea, does she? Let's look at the comments. Yeah, you're the a-hole. Your mother supported her through school and you think you deserve to be more important than someone who actually played a massive part in her life? You don't have to talk to people, you could just act like a grown-up. If you want to be her parent, then be her parent. If a photo or sitting together is too much to ask, then you are immature and a pretty crap parent. To be honest, if you'd pulled that crap with me, you wouldn't have been invited, and I would have kept my grandmother there. You're the a-hole. You took a moment in her life and made it about you. I feel bad for your daughter. You need to take the gift that she's giving you about trying to talk these things out and learn from it. Apologize and mean it. You're the a-hole. Check out the sub raised by narcissists. Could probably help you understand your daughter's POV. Opie makes an edit. Though I disagree that my feelings weren't even worthy of consideration in this situation, would it not have been best if she asked me for a compromise? For example, I would attend the graduation and she could have a celebratory meal with her father and grandmother separately afterwards. But I can see here that the overwhelming consensus is that, in this instance, I was the jerk to my daughter. Fine, I'll apologise again. Alrighty, now for an update. 4 years and 5 months later. Hi, it's been a while, and I'm not sure if anyone would even care at this point, but I accidentally logged into my throwaway on an older laptop and remembered this. Quite frankly, I'm really embarrassed and ashamed to reread my original post. My attitude was terrible, and it's one of those moments I wish I could go back in time and shake some sense into my past self. As many people in the comments predicted, I no longer have a relationship of any kind with my daughter, or 2 of my other kids. COVID and lockdowns did a number on our family, I'll just say that. I've been doing a lot of reflecting and therapy over the past year, and I realise I've not been the kind of mother my children have needed in their lives. I have no contact with my daughter now, who is married and moved abroad now, and, from her wishes, this will not be changing anytime soon. I also have very little contact with 2 of my other children. My relationship with my final child is strained, and I'm doing everything I can not to break it. After having logged into this account again and seeing that post, I find myself desperately wishing to go back in time, and maybe I could have stopped the breaking of my family if I'd behaved differently here. I don't really know what I want to say here. Maybe just hopefully encourage one person who has been deemed the jerk to reflect sooner rather than later, and maybe their lives won't go the same way as mine. I'm going to log out of this account again now. Maybe I'll pop in again in another 4 years with better news. Thank you for the comments and advice I've received, and to those who think I'm beyond redemption, I truly hope you're wrong. OP replies to some comments. What happened with the other kids? My son was a COVID denier, and we clashed during the height of lockdown on the best way to go about things, and our relationship has not recovered since. Similarly to my eldest daughter, my daughter has been struggling with issues from her childhood, my fault, and being forced in one home during lockdown exacerbated her feelings, and she is now taking time to put some space between us until she's ready to decide how and if she wants to move forward. I have respected this. When I say my relationship with my youngest is strained, I mean in the sense that she very clearly feels conflicted about staying loyal to me versus her siblings. As she still lives at home, I see the fallout of this personal conflict and see how it strains our relationship, and I'm doing my best not to make her think she has to pick sides, while also trying to improve the quality of our relationship. As I don't have contact with her siblings, I don't know if they also feel like their relationship with my youngest is strained. About Opie's mother. My mother and I have begun to repair our relationship over the last 3 years. Someone asks, what are you doing differently with your approach to your kids still in contact? I'm only in full contact with my youngest currently, but to answer your question, listening to her and respecting her space and boundaries. That's breaking it down to its simplest form, but essentially that's what I've been working on with my therapist, and from conversations with my children, is the crux of the issue they have with me. Not often do I see posts where people realize they're in the wrong and did some reflection to change themselves. Based on the description, it sounded like OP and the daughter's relationship was really pretty tough. Not sure where the future can lead, but I do applaud OP actually admitting their faults, but it does sound like things are a bit too late to fix at this point. I wish the daughter for the best. Agreed. I mean, since no one can change the past, pretty much the best case scenario is for someone to realize that they effed up and make efforts to change, and it certainly seems like OP is doing that. Whatever happens in the future, that change is a positive step. It was really telling that she refused to list what the petty stuff you would expect someone to grow up and move on about in her original post. Just because she thought those reasons were no big deal, doesn't mean they weren't a big deal to the daughter. It's essentially saying her daughter's feelings were no big deal. I'm glad she appears to finally start to understand just how badly she messed up. Yeah, well, like that comment said, after the damage is already done, the best thing you can do is learn and grow from it. I guess that's a lesson for all of us. Am I the a-hole for leaving my husband for him and his parents' rude behaviour? I, 25 female, have been married to 24 male for 4 years. The first 2 years of our marriage we were stationed in North Carolina, but have since moved to Texas where his family lives. Since moving to Texas, I've gotten to know my in-laws, and what I know is that they are all disrespectful. All of them, almost as if it's hereditary. Here are a few examples. I'm Korean and my husband's family is Mexican. My sister-in-law tried bulgogi, which is beef marinated in a sweet sauce, and gagged in front of me when she took a bite of it, spitting it out and complaining that she didn't expect it to taste like that. Every time we go out to eat, my in-laws will run the waiters back and forth, asking for special requests and refills, but if they don't like the food or they forget one item that they ordered, they will literally tip the waiter change from out of their pocket. I'm talking $5 on a $120 bill, even if their service was amazing. If we go into a store or go to the gym and it's about to close, they will be the last people to leave. And not last, as in they close at 9 p.m. and they're leaving at 9 p.m. Last as in they close at 9 p.m. and we're barely walking out the door at 9:15. Every time an instance like this happens, my husband and I get into it. They usually end with my husband making excuses like, "That's just the way my family is," or "I don't care what other people think and neither should you." My last straw was when my mother was unexpectedly diagnosed with cancer. I flew back to my home in Korea to take care of her for a while when she was getting her chemo. I stayed for 2 weeks before needing to go back to my home in Texas for work obligations, and can you guess who never once reached out to me the whole time I was there? Yup, my in-laws. Not once did I receive any call or text message, not even when I came back did the topic of my mum come up. My husband told me he told them about my mum, so I don't understand why no one could have just checked up on me, or at least called my mum. The next time we saw my in-laws was the next day I came back from Korea. They were over for dinner. I waited to see what they were going to talk about, and as they continued discussing what cows they wanted to buy, I left to the room and didn't come out for the rest of the night. When they left, my husband angrily confronted me, telling me how disrespectful I was. I honestly didn't even have it in me to fight anymore. I just packed my bags and booked the next flight to Korea. All my husband's and in-laws' messages and phone calls are being ignored because I just cannot stand their disrespectful behaviour, and to hear my husband calling me disrespectful was enough. Maybe I'm overreacting, but honestly, this behaviour is exhausting. I deal with it every time we go out, and I'm done. I don't want to be surrounded by people like this, and I'd rather focus my attention on my mum. Am I the jerk? Wow, yeah, nah, I'd probably walk out as well. Let's read some comments. First, beef bulgogi is delicious. Second, it seems like your resentment and frustration had been steadily increasing over time. You expressed your frustration, nothing changed or excuses were made. Their reaction to your mum's diagnosis is the straw that broke the camel's back. How was your husband when you went to Korea for 2 weeks? Not the a-hole. Sometimes the little things add up and become big things. Your husband calling you disrespectful is not cool. Go take care of your mum. Just also be aware that any debt your husband incurs while you're still married is half yours according to US law, so you may want some kind of legal separation or divorce filed to prevent him trying to stick you with some crappy credit card debt. Not the a-hole for having standards around behaviour, and for tipping adequately. That's just human decency. I wish more people did. Not the a-hole. Husbands should be more supportive or make an effort to encourage his family to be more amicable and less of however they want to describe themselves. Honestly, sounds like a drain, and I would suggest divorce ASAP. This is one of those opportunities where you get to choose your family, and it ain't them. Now for an update. To clear things up a little, this situation happened over a month ago and I've been in Korea ever since. My husband and I did not get divorced, but we had talked things out and decided I needed space to take care of my mum first, and whatever problems that we had can be discussed at a better time. As for my in-laws, I haven't spoken to them since. I really wanted to work things out after reading a few of the comments saying my in-laws' behaviour is not the fault of my husband. I thought that maybe I was being too judgy over behaviour that I'm not used to. That maybe they're not all bad, but they just have a few faults. As for my mum, she hasn't been doing so well. She's been losing a lot of weight because she says that everything she eats tastes like metal, and she's been in constant pain. It's gotten so bad that she can't even get out of bed by herself. On top of that, I'm having a tough time watching my mum struggling, and feeling like I don't have anyone on my side during this time, especially since my husband's family still hasn't reached out to me. Last week, my husband reached out to me telling me that his mum had tonsillitis and was going in for surgery. Reluctantly, I reached out to her and told her that I would be praying and wishing her a safe surgery. I even had the hospital's gift shop send flowers up to her room because I couldn't be there. I figured that maybe they just weren't the type of people to reach out, and that I should put whatever happened in the past. My husband expressed how grateful she was, and how happy she was to have received the flowers, hoping that I was doing okay in Korea. Unfortunately, I wasn't. Fast forward to a week later, my mother's condition had gotten so bad that she lost her battle with cancer and passed away. I told my husband what happened, and he was in just as much shock as I was. He said that he was sorry, telling me how much of a good mother she was, and how happy she must have been to have me by her side during her last few days. We were preparing to get the funeral done in the next few days, so I asked my husband what day he could be here. He was hesitant on the phone, saying that he felt bad for my mother and all, but he also had his mother to worry about, how he needed to be there for her, just like I was there for mine. I was in complete shock and just hung up the phone. He is missing my mother's funeral to take care of his mother who had tonsillitis surgery a week ago. Unbelievable. Any chances I ever thought of giving him was completely out the window. It was insane to believe that he felt like his mum recovering from a very minor surgery was more important than the death of my mum and his mother-in-law. I'm not saying that tonsillectomy isn't important, but I'm sure she'll recover just fine, as it's a very common surgery, and the downtime is 1 to 2 weeks, and it's already been a week. As of now, I've hired a lawyer to discuss divorce, and I'm going to therapy. I plan on going back to the US to end things with my husband, quit my job, and take my stuff back with me after my mum's funeral. As for his family, I haven't heard from them. Shocking, right? Whatever, I'm just glad I get to be done with him and his family, and that I'll be able to focus on myself and my mental health. Yeah, I wouldn't be calling them family, that's for sure. Glad to hear Opie's getting out of there. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Would you have given them another chance? I probably wouldn't have, but that's just me. Anyway, let's go to our next story. Okay, this one was posted on the Today I Effed Up subreddit. It was written by user Nadatam, and it's titled, Today I effed up by telling my long-term girlfriend I pay for sex. Actually, I effed up a few weeks ago, but please bear with me. I'm only now realizing the intensity of it. A little bit of background. I, 26 male, and my girlfriend, 24 female, have been together for about 4 years. She's from an upper middle class family. An only child, so always taken care of. She's very financially responsible and not bratty or anything, and extremely caring. So the entire time we've been together, my financial situation wasn't the best, until now. My girlfriend knew this but never made me feel insecure about it. She would just pay for things without making a big deal out of them. For example, if she noticed I needed something around the house, or if there was something she thought would make my life comfortable, she would just order for me on Amazon and be low-key about it so that I don't feel like a charity case or something. She would often order food from her phone and pay for it when she came over. We're both Asian, so we would often have a friendly fight over who pays, but she would often already have paid. Like things would arrive and she'd already have paid for them. She never demanded any gifts from me or anything, even though I know she likes things. She would get me really thoughtful gifts for my birthdays and anniversaries, and to be honest, my gifts for her were not the best, but she would always be thankful and happy. She was used to going to nice places, but would still be excited about going to budget places with me, and be genuinely excited. Cut to now. I started a business a while ago, and it's doing really well now, and I'm financially comfortable now. I like to get my girlfriend things because I can afford to finally spoil her, little gifts every now and then. Honestly, anything she might like. I also like taking her on little shopping trips. Again, she's financially smart, not very keen on high-end fashion, so it's not like she shops in luxury stores when I take her shopping. She buys a few things. Also worth noting, anything I buy for her, she is capable of buying herself. She has a well-paying job, has no debts because parents paid for her uni. She doesn't expect me to buy anything, but I'm happy that I'm in a position now that I can buy her things that make her happy. Now onto my Today I effed up moment. I took my girlfriend shopping, and she got a pair of sneakers and a dress or two. Nothing over the top. On our way home, we were talking about that viral street video from Japan, where men and women say they don't consider it cheating if a man has sex with a sex worker. My girlfriend mentioned she could never pay for sex and asked me if I ever would. I jokingly said, I already do, and glanced at the shopping bags. Her smile instantly disappeared. I sensed her entire mood and vibes change. I felt really bad for saying that and apologized immediately because honestly, it was a really stupid joke. She said it was fine and we moved on. Now it's been a couple weeks since that incident, and I've noticed that my girlfriend hasn't used any of the stuff I bought her that day. Usually she wears the things I buy her within the next few days and points out, "Look, I'm wearing the insert item you got me." She says it in a really cute way, and seeing her happy like that makes me really happy. But she hasn't touched the sneakers or the clothes we bought together that day. They're still in their bags, and I think it's because of that stupid joke I made. I also noticed she had some packages get delivered a few days ago. Usually she shows me what she's buying and I offer to buy it for her. She doesn't always accept my offer, but she still shows me the things she's ordering. But this time, nothing. I can't believe I messed up like this. I think I really hurt her feelings. And the bonus stupid part is that the things I buy her are all a small fraction of what she owns and buys anyway. It's not like I fund her lifestyle or something like that. She spent years getting me things and never said a thing about any of it, and I just had to make that ill-timed joke. I don't know how to bring this up with her. I really didn't mean what I said to her, but I know she's an overthinker and probably thinks I meant it. I don't know, just talk to her, dude. That's all I'm thinking when I read this. Let's look at the comments. Very much not what I thought was being admitted when I read the title. You need to 1. Sit her down for a talk, 2. Apologize again, 3. Recognize how what you said could make her feel like you didn't appreciate all she has done for you, and listen to her when she talks about how it made her feel. 4. Reiterate it was a stupid joke that you did not believe at all, and again say that it wasn't something that you should have said because of how she has helped you with her financial insecurity. 5. Reiterate that you bought those things for her because you enjoy seeing her happy and want to celebrate being in a more financially secure place because of her help. 6. Listen to her. Make a plan to address lingering feelings. And 7. Don't be upset if this doesn't fix things immediately. Continue to express and show appreciation. Nothing makes a girl feel special than to tell her she's a tramp that you pay for. Bro, you need to do some serious damage control. I don't know how you come back from this, but it's a ton of kissing and apologizing for being dumb. Okay, let's go to the edits and updates. Edit. I did not expect this post to get the amount of attention it got. I appreciate everyone's inputs. Thank you for taking out the time to share your insights. There are a few things I want to add. A few people called my girlfriend oversensitive or boring for not taking the joke well, and some even went as far as suggesting reconsidering the relationship and breaking up. Her and I have a similar sense of humour and always banter and make jokes back and forth. This one didn't land and it's on me. I'm not about to end things with her because she didn't like a mean joke I made at her expense. She's allowed to be upset and I'm not allowed to gaslight and defend what I said by being all, "Oh, but it was a joke, get over it." Some people also talked about how our relationship appears materialistic, and that is because I shared a post about a materialistic aspect of our relationship. We spend a lot of quality time together, cook, travel, we do acts of service for each other and look out after one another. Most of the things we do together are not about material things, but spending time with each other. I've gone through the comments and agree that I need to apologize sincerely to my girlfriend. I will talk to her once she's back this evening. I'm planning something special for her this evening, not buying anything as many people rightly suggested it would be a bad idea. So I'll be showing her appreciation with my actions and words. I'll probably update this post with how it goes. Okay, let's go to that update. Update. The short version is I'm an idiot. The long version is below. I wanted to do something special for my girlfriend tonight before I talk to her. There is a dish from my culture that she really likes. We're both Asian but from different countries. The dish takes 4 to 5 hours to make, so I don't make it very often. The food was almost ready by the time she came back. I was honestly really nervous because I want her to know I didn't mean the joke, and believe it, because that's the truth. Anyway, she gets home, kisses me, says hi, smiles, and cheekily asks what I'm cooking. Lol, she knew exactly what it was. She then playfully asked why I cooked it today, and I said I wanted to do something nice for her. She was really excited and smiley and said she can't wait to eat it, but wanted to take a shower first. When she came back, I was grabbing dishes and glasses for us when I heard her say, "Look, I'm wearing the dress you got me." It was with her usual excitement and happiness, and honestly I was so happy and relieved. It was one of the dresses we got on the day of my "today I effed up" incident. She obviously looked beautiful and I told her that. I was a little confused though, but also relieved. We had our dinner together and talked about our day and laughed and just had an amazing time. She was so smiley and giggly the whole time that I was considering making this dish every week. She was so appreciative of the meal I made us and constantly complimented and kissed me. After cleaning up, we were cuddling on the couch together and I told her, "I need to say something to you." I told her I was sorry about the joke that I made the other day and that I didn't mean it. I told her how much I loved and appreciated her and everything she's done for me and does, that I'll never want to hurt her feelings. The joke was something I said in the moment and in no way reflects how I think or feel about her. She told me she knows I didn't mean it and that it was a joke. She said I literally walked into that joke. Like many commenters, she said that the entire conversation kind of led to that joke. She admitted that she got a little hurt in the moment and a bit sad, but I apologized immediately, so she knew I realized it was inappropriate. She also said it bothered her for a bit later that day, but that she knows I didn't mean it, because our relationship is much more than just sex anyway. I was so relieved to hear that, but then I asked her why she didn't wear any of the things from that day, and to be honest, what she told me makes sense. She pointed out how it's been raining on and off for the past 2 weeks, and the sneakers are white, and she didn't want them to get dirty the first time she wore them. She does this in general, so this is not out of the ordinary. As for the dresses, at first she didn't really have anywhere to wear them because of the weather, plus she felt bloated when she got her period, so she didn't want to waste a cute outfit when she didn't feel her best. Again, this is totally in character for her, so I believe this, but then I asked about the packages, and she looked a little confused. Then she got up to get the packages. They were still unopened. She asked me to open them. They were towels and bed sheets, and we had picked those out like a month ago together. But we were waiting for them to be on sale before ordering. She ordered them because they were finally on discount. I felt so stupid, to be honest, but not as much as I felt relieved. We literally couldn't stop laughing after I saw it was towels and bed sheets. She asked me if her behaviour towards me had changed in any way in the past few weeks. It hadn't. She said I just felt guilty about the joke and that's why I thought she was still upset. She mentioned that if it had bothered her that much, I would have heard about it within 2 days of the incident. Man, I can't believe I was going through this whole internal crisis. I was so nervous and genuinely scared she was going to dump me. And as helpful as a lot of your comments were, I was really worried our relationship was over. The whole thing is so ridiculous, we couldn't stop laughing. She is so sweet that she tried comforting me and told me she finds it cute how I was so worried about the joke, which further shows me how much you actually value me. And then she said that if I still feel bad about it, she has the perfect comeback for my joke, and in fact had it on the day of the incident, but hadn't used it because she thought it would be too mean. We were laughing about the whole thing, so I asked her what it was. She confirmed if I sure I wouldn't be upset. Obviously not. Insult me back, woman. Quote, "I think we both know that you're pretty much my sugar baby." The way we both broke out into laughter. Man, I love this woman so much and I'm so happy it's all good. And for context, her comeback is great because I do live in her house with her that's rent and mortgage free. All of this on top of the background I'd given in my original post. Anyway, I told her about this post too and mentioned how it got hundreds of comments, and she couldn't stop laughing and saying that you're probably going to end up on those Reddit Minecraft or Reddit podcast TikToks. Right now she's on a call with her parents, and once she's done, we're going to go through this post together because she wants in on the tea. In conclusion, thank you all for your insights and inputs, I appreciate it. To those who said I should break up, I really hope that if you have partners or when you have partners and something similar occurs, you are able to talk it out before ending things. Hope all of you have a wonderful day ahead. I know I will. Okay folks, and that's the end of that story. Great ending there. You love to hear it. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below. My husband wants me to be the mother to his affair child. I, 29 female, and my husband, 44 male, have been together for 5 years and married for 2. I met him at the church I started going to when I moved cities to start my career. I work for an insurance company, and he's a pastor. I know that we have a notable age gap, but he was always kind to me and made me feel special. Anyhow, a week ago he came home and told me we needed to talk. He told me through tears that he had been having an affair with one of our community members, 34 female, and that she had been pregnant with twins. She had gone into labour. She and one of the twins died, and the other is in the NICU. He said we need to step up and that he wants me to turn my office into a nursery and set up a cot in the room so we can take turns. I became distressed and told him I wanted some time to think, that I was not sure I wanted to do this. He told me that I had made a vow to him in marriage and that God had blessed us with a child, that this is our cross to bear, and that God will never send us something we cannot handle. I told him that it seemed God had given her more than she could handle because she had died. I know I should not have, but I was not thinking correctly. He slapped me and told me that I needed to serve my husband, that God has chosen me as this child's mother, and I needed to be his humble servant. I just feel so strange. Yesterday I cried so hard I threw up. This woman died, yet I feel bad for myself. I feel so ugly. I wanted children and was saving for IVF because I'm infertile, but now that I have a chance to have a child and I don't want it, I feel like I'd be robbing its mother's grave. I pray to God, but if I'm being honest, it's never felt like anyone was ever listening. I feel like I've truly seen my husband, and he no longer looks kind. He looks his age and very tired. I want to abandon him and the child. I'm only 29. I can start over. I have a remote job. I can take a day off when he goes to the NICU, pack my essentials and leave. Neither him nor the child deserve this. And although this is my circus, that is not my monkey. Wow, what the hell is that guy going on about staying true to your vows? Bro, you just cheated on your wife. Are you serious, dude? Let's look at the comments. Leave, leave, leave. You cannot trust this man. You have absolutely no obligation to become his mistress's child's mum. This isn't sister wives. This is all a very unfortunate and sad situation, but you are a hurt party here. God didn't tell him to knock up a woman outside of his marriage. This whole thing was of your husband's own making. He is trying to coerce you by abusing your religion for his own selfish wants. No, no, no. Isn't it in the Bible that if your eyes tempt you to sin, that you should gouge your eyes out? Well, I'm assuming his eyes are pretty much intact, aren't they? And the cherry on top is he felt so self-righteous in that moment to slap you after everything he's done. No. Leave that manipulative, abusive POS behind. Another commenter said, "Love yourself and leave." Opie replies, "That's the hard part. I always have felt like I was never on anyone's radar and just their back burner. He made me feel special and loved, but this last week I feel like I've seen past that. Although I was old enough to decide to be in an age gap relationship, I feel like he had no business with being with someone my age. I'm 29 now and I would feel wrong being with someone 24. I spent my whole life accepting second best, and now that the one person who put me first has now put me last, I feel like I just see it all now. I feel used." Another commenter says, "I'm a Christian and a preacher's kid. He's full of crap. He made vows too. This is not your cross to bear." Opie says, "I've kind of been thinking about that recently. I still love him because that doesn't leave overnight, as much as I want it to. This last week I've just been thinking about what it would look like when the baby comes home. The arguments we'd inevitably have in front of the child, the way he'll use the fear of God to make them behave, and I can't accept that. I was willing to accept that when it was just me, and I'm not sure why, but I just can no longer accept this behaviour." More info on the affair. He said that she had come to his office several times to seek spiritual counselling, and the affair just happened after many emotional sessions. The assistant pastor is aware of things according to my husband's version of events, and has called me twice this week to offer help converting my office into a nursery. He said that forgiveness is a virtue, and this is part of God's plan. One commenter says, "Don't let him use God to manipulate you. He doesn't care about you." Opie replies, "That's just it though. Looking past the situation itself, he doesn't care about me. and only pretended to. I finally found someone who put me first, and it was a lie. I feel like such a gullible idiot. A 39-year-old man was interested in a 24-year-old woman because they had the same interests? Really? I feel so stupid for not seeing it, when I can so clearly see it now. Well, how about everyone around her saying this is all part of God's plan? Jeez, what a crap show. Hope he gives a little update in the comments. I just want to thank you all for the support. I'm still processing this all and I just need a little time. I don't feel unsafe, just unloved, just not enough. My husband did apologize for slapping me and continues to express regret, but he can't take it back, just as he cannot take back impregnating another woman, which ultimately killed her. I'm just feeling so disillusioned with my whole life right now. I know I should leave. I know that there is a world out there that will not treat me like this, but I'm scared of change. I'm working on a plan to leave and getting my ducks in a row for when I'm ready to go, but I'm not sure when I would leave if I choose to. Many expressed that I should make a report to the police about him slapping me, and they're probably right, but that would likely cause me more problems than it would be worth. If I leave, it might make him want to contest the divorce more, and if I stay, it would cause more tension. I've been working on my left hook though because I won't let him get away with it again. I'm not violent myself, but I'm down for a tussle, because although I'm hurt, I am angry. I'm not sure if there will be an update, because I'm still unsure. I can make all the plans in the world, but the change scares me almost as much as bending to his will. I've been praying about it, but I see no clear answers or guidance. I don't know. Funny thing, I'm jealous of the people saying that this is fake. It's like I want my life to be like it was 2 weeks ago. I could read a crazy story on the internet and think, wow, that's crazy, seems kinda fake, and keep scrolling and go about my life. Only I can't scroll away in real life, because that's just not how life works. I don't owe anyone proof of my life tragedies, least of all strangers on the internet whom I will never meet. I do thank all who have given support. I wish I could tell you I packed my bags and left his sorry ass, but I'm not strong enough to yet. It's not that easy to do in real life as it turns out. Odd. Yep, it's always more complicated than what it seems on the surface. Alright, let's go to the last update, 8 months later. I left. If that's all you wanted to know, there it is. For those of you who are asking how the other woman died, I get it, I invited you into my business. It was an amniotic fluid embolism. I don't know much about those, but I guess when they happen, things go wrong really, really fast. We lived in a more rural area, so they just weren't ready for something like that to happen. I didn't leave right away, as I know now that I should have. It just wasn't that easy. I stayed for 2 months. I knew if I did not at least try to make it work, I would not be able to live with it. Not because I wanted to save my marriage, but because what-ifs keep me up at night enough as is. I went to marriage counselling with my husband, but it was ultimately fruitless. Of course it was Christian counselling. I felt like their goal was for me to forgive him rather than actually trying to help me. I was so utterly alone during that time. My parents and brother are also very religious, so even though they weren't happy with my husband, they kept urging me to do what a good Christian wife would do. I spent so much time suffering in my own head that I began to realize that I was just going through the motions, doing what I thought people expected of me. I entered a state of derealization for a time, and that was an absolute mind-f. The feeling of nothing being real, not even myself, was horrible. During this period, my husband brought his baby home, and while he tried to split the cares 50-50 at first, he ultimately didn't trust me to look after the baby because I was, quote, lost in space. So he ended up being the primary provider. When I was with the baby, all I could think about was how its existence ruined my life. It'd look at me with big blue eyes and I would just wish it would disappear. I would actively spend time resenting a baby. There was a time when I was thinking to myself, and I wished it would stop breathing. That was when I knew that I needed to leave. I was blaming a baby and wishing ill upon it, and that was not okay to do. I don't remember much about this time besides that. It's mostly a blur otherwise. I sought services through my work to talk to a therapist, and I eventually came back to Earth. She helped me make a plan. At no point did I fear my husband. I truly believe the slap was a one-off event. However, screw him, he doesn't deserve closure. On a night he had a long Bible study, he always took his baby with him because he didn't trust me, I packed my essentials and dipped. I met him pretty quickly after college, so I did not have much to take as far as furnishings. I fit everything I wanted into 3 suitcases and 4 moving boxes. It all fit into my SUV after some mediocre Tetris skills. I was able to change my phone number online before I left, but I did leave the divorce papers under his pillow with my lawyer's contact info. Kind of like the tooth fairy, but for adults, or jerks. I was the breadwinner. In my state, we were not married long enough for me to pay spousal maintenance. At least that is what my lawyer said. I owned my vehicle outright, we had our own bank accounts and a shared expenses account. We filed taxes separately, and the church owns the house. He's being an a-hole about it all, but I'm hoping it should be done soon. I got a decent apartment in a city a few hundred miles away. I've never lived in a city this big before. Everything is so expensive, but besides that, I like it. I found a new therapist, met some new friends, and found a new church with loving people. I still have my days, but for the most part, I'm content. I think it will always hurt on some level, but I'm working on taking my power back. I turn 30 next month, and I'm hopeful it will be the start of my best decade yet. Alrighty folks, and that's the end of that one. A great hopeful ending there, I think. I'm surprised she actually stayed that long after the first post. What did she say, like a couple months? Yeah, that'd be hard. But I get what she means about putting her mind at ease and not having to worry about the what-ifs all the time. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next story was written by user Like Grace Kelly, and it's titled, Husband is Melting Down Over Gender Disappointment. I am 13 weeks 5 days, and we had our first trimester screening last week with an NIPT test. We sprang for all the genetic testing, and this morning they called us and told us everything was normal, and we're having a girl. I am elated. I didn't have a gender preference. I think all genders have their pros and cons, and children are going to be who they're going to be. I guess I'm more excited for the closure, that during a time when so much is up in the air, we have an answer to one of the biggest questions we have. I told my husband and he was happy at first, but said he was a little disappointed because he wanted a boy. But as the day goes on, he's telling me he really, really wanted a boy, more intensely than he was letting on throughout the pregnancy. Like he would make little jokes about manifesting that the baby is a boy and telling people that he wants the baby to be a boy. He's reading all these articles online about gender disappointment that say what he's going through is normal, but his gender disappointment goes deep. For instance, we live in the southeastern US, and he's afraid that our daughter will get subpar healthcare, which is a very reasonable thing to worry about, as well as what if she's LGBTQ+, and she will be mixed race, white and black, and will face discrimination for that too. But then he said he was afraid she'll get predated upon, and I said that was a possibility with a boy too. And then he said that he feels less of a bond with our daughter because of sexist stereotypes on his part, like, what if she likes clothes shopping? I hate clothes shopping. And, you have to teach a girl how to be modest. And, I can't teach her how to pee. ? I told him kids are going to like what they like. You can get a girl who likes trucks and a boy who likes to paint his nails. You can influence that to an extent, but kids are going to be who they're going to be. He also said that girls are harder to raise, and it's unfortunate timing that our 12-year-old niece that we take care of got a call home from the principal right as he was saying that. I said I don't know if girls are so much hard to raise as our niece is hard to raise. We have a small sample size and that's just bad science, lol. He then said that he was hoping for a boy because he wanted to be a better father to his son than his own deadbeat father was, and he was slightly insecure about his own masculinity and wanted a son to prove that he could be masculine and raise a masculine son. I said he should unpack that in therapy. He has a therapist he sees once a week on Thursdays. Have any of you all dealt with this? I searched this subreddit, but most of the gender disappointment posts were from pregnant people themselves. Our relatives and friends' gender disappointment, but not the spouse. I like the advice that he'll feel differently when he holds her for the first time, but that's 6 months from now, and I've got to live with him that whole time, lol. I'm trying to not let him ruin my day or excitement, but it's tough. Honestly, I think he just needs to change his mindset a little bit. Let's check out some comments. Honestly, it sounds more like he's afraid than disappointed. He's afraid he won't be able to relate to her, or properly protect her, or even be man enough for her. For some reason, he convinced himself he could be manly for a son, but now he feels way out of his depth. And he's right. Loving a daughter will call things out of a man that he didn't know existed. He has all these notions about what masculinity is supposed to look like, but only from the world view of a little boy. Nothing makes a man feel more scared than being absolutely clueless about how to love a little girl, completely dependent on him. I think his anxieties could be assuaged by assuring him that he will fall head over heels for her once he meets her, and he might be pleasantly surprised when she ends up a daddy's girl, impressed and curious of all his interests. He doesn't feel a connection now, but he certainly will. To be honest, I really want a girl, and in a few weeks I'll find out the gender. I want boys too, but I just really want the first to be a girl. I imagine I'll have some disappointment, but for different reasons. I think a daughter is exactly what this man needs. He should definitely unpack this in therapy. He should unpack both his disappointment and his gross stereotypes, like needing to teach a girl to be modest, and assuming that her preferred hobby will be shopping. Honestly, the latter would be far more concerning to me. I would try and phrase it to him that it's okay to be upset, but he better shape up before she's here. Sure, she's not a boy, but now he gets to be a role model for her, be the example of what she'll look for, teach her what to tolerate and what to not when it comes to men. When my husband makes sexist jokes, I ask him this: if our daughter had a boyfriend and you heard him say that, would you be okay with it? Usually it shuts him up and his outlook has started to change. So while he's not raising a boy, he gets to show her what a man should be. Plus, who's to say she'll like shopping? She might be a tomboy. She might decide down the road that she's actually trans. We have no idea who our kids will grow up to be. He'll find things for them to connect in. Yeah, it almost sounds like he's kind of stuck in the anxiety of being a new parent, which is perfectly understandable, of course. Okay, on to the update, 7 months later. Long story short, in September, I gave birth to our daughter, and he is so in love with her, it's not even funny, lol. Some things I think helped with his initial gender disappointment. He chose her name. Like some of you said, his therapist helped him realize that his anxiety was less about our daughter's gender itself, and more about his anxiety at impending parenthood. Knowing our daughter's gender made the pregnancy real for him. He was freaking out because he knows what it's like to be a boy, but a girl is the unknown of a gender he doesn't know how to be, on top of the unknown of parenting, if that makes sense. He got over himself about his interests not being girly, and therefore having nothing in common with her, because she's a baby, lol. Her interests right now are shapes, colours, and my boobs. Why it took the birth of his baby girl for him to realise this when he's been married to me, a girl who shares his interests for 8 years? Well, we will never know. My niece is still difficult to raise, lol, but he has the sense now to realise that she, or his tumultuous relationship with his sister or his mum, is not indicative of all girls and women. I should send his therapist flowers. A point of clarification. When he said he was afraid to have a girl because he didn't like clothes shopping, that wasn't him saying, women be shopping. That was him saying he doesn't know how to shop for women's clothes. Which, fair, I've been a girl for 32 years and I haven't mastered that. Where are all the pockets? All this to say, the gender disappointment issue ended up being that he ruined one day I had back in March of this year. He loves our daughter, does not resent her for not being a boy, and didn't leave me over his gender disappointment. I just want other parents experiencing this to know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you to everyone who weighed in. I felt really validated. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that one. Give me your thoughts down below. Yeah, honestly, in this day and age, I don't think anyone should try for a child with any expectations on what they want the gender to be. Like, if you're ready, then surely you gotta have no preference. I don't know, that's just me. Like, the gender in an infant is such a bullcrap reason to exclude or be excited. Am I the a-hole for accidentally telling my fiancé I hate his sister and she won't be a part of my wedding? This situation is literally ridiculous, but this whole thing has caused almost nuclear warfare across the family, so I'm here to get a consensus. Throw away for privacy, even though there's a good chance my fiancé will see it. I, 26 female, have been with my fiancé Chris, 26 male, for 4 years now. He and his sister, 21 female, Lilac, are very close. They had a pretty traumatic childhood and always promised each other to be there no matter what. Lilac is a good sister to him, but as a person, truthfully, I can't stand her. She's literally the textbook definition of a bubbly blonde. She's overly charismatic, always giggling, and in general just acts too immature for my taste. She likes to pull pranks every once in a while on my fiancé, and he gets her back, but the whole ordeal just seems childish and obnoxious to me. Ever since we got engaged, I knew I didn't want her in my wedding party, because that means I'd have to spend time with her at my bachelorette and other parties. Fast forward to last night, and my fiancé asked me when I'm planning on asking Lilac to be a bridesmaid. I got quiet, and truthfully said I didn't plan on doing so. This upset him because he said he wants his sister to be a part of the most important day of his life, and that if I didn't do it, he was going to make her a groomswoman, to make sure she is included. I can't lie, this set me off. I went off about how I want to feel respected by him and be able to enjoy my wedding day. He said he also wants to enjoy his day, which to be fair I understand. This is where I may be the a-hole. I told him that I have always disliked his sister and wished he would just not include her for once on a day that isn't even about her. He got quiet and went into a guest room to be alone. A couple of minutes later, I got a text from Lilac that she completely respects my decision to not want her in the wedding party, but she's hurt to know what I actually feel about her. I didn't want her to find out at all, and now he's told his whole family about our argument. Half of them are attacking me, and half of them are saying it's my day so I should be able to enjoy it. Honestly, this whole ordeal is stressful for no reason, because Lilac isn't even upset. I don't want her in my wedding party. Yet the whole family is upset and my fiancé has been very short with me all day. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Just because I hate her personality doesn't mean I'm mean to her. Being around her drains my social battery, but I've never been mean to her, nor did I want her to find out ever, especially in this way. I'm just super introverted and our personalities collide. I don't want her at my bachelorette party because I want to enjoy it fully, and not feel anxious the whole time because the personification of a human firecracker is attending. Wow, what's going on here? Is OP like super insecure or something? This is weird. Let's go to the comments. You're the a-hole. Quote, I didn't want her in my wedding party because that means I'd have to spend time with her at my bachelorette and other parties. End quote. Boy, do I have some bad news about what's going to happen if you actually marry her brother and legally bind yourself to him and his family for the foreseeable future. To be clear, you're free to not want her in your wedding party, but if she's going to be your sister-in-law, you might have to get over your distaste of blondes who've, check list, been bubbly and happy. So, she's happy and enjoying life and this bothers you? Might want to do some inward reflections there, bud. You're the a-hole. It's your fiancé's wedding too. It's not all about you. You're the a-hole and sound jealous of their relationship. It's not just your wedding, it's his wedding too, and if you don't want her as a bridesmaid, then fine. But it's unfair for you to dictate that he can't have her on his side and blow up at him for wanting to include her. Lots of selfishness on your end. That's not a great way to start a marriage. It's not even like she's major drama, you just find her too giggly and obnoxious. You're the a-hole. You have every right to not ask her to be a bridesmaid. You don't have the right to tell your future husband she can't be a groomswoman. That's just being petty. If their history is as traumatic as you say it is, have you stopped to consider her personality is the result of the trauma as a way of coping? I suggest you think long and hard if this is the hill you're going to die on, because honestly, you might not enjoy the outcome. Yeah, so general consensus in the comments there is OP is the a-hole. OP then goes on to respond to a bunch of comments about the abuse that she mentioned. There's a bunch of comments, so we won't read them all, but she basically mentions how the sister especially was assaulted by their father growing up, and this is probably why the siblings are so close now. She also expresses her frustration with how attached they are at the hip. She says apparently they'd pretty much do everything together, and because she's rowdy, it causes him to do the same, and it's hard for OP to relax and stuff like that. Honestly, I think OP's being pretty selfish here. What do you guys think? Alright, let's go to the update. He called me about 2 hours ago. He's currently staying at Lilac's and asked if we could talk. I obliged, and it was a very difficult talk to say the least. I asked him to come home and he rejected. Firstly, he apologised for telling his family and said it was a rash mistake he made in the heat of the moment. Then he said that if I wasn't willing to have her as a bridesmaid, that it is unfair of me to ask him to not have her as his best woman, and that he is not willing to compromise his sister's role in our wedding. This made me cry and tell him that I'm tired of feeling second place to another woman, and that I was going to be his wife, so I wanted to feel like he had my back when I needed him. This really upset him, and he said that as Lilac's big brother, he is also supposed to have her back when she needs him, and she needs him now, when the supposed love of his life is blindsiding him with hurtful information about her. He told me that it was true, he does put Lilac first, and he won't stop because he raised her. He said that he is willing to go to couples counselling, but first I need to apologise to Lilac for what I said, and stop griping over the fact he wants her as his best woman. The call was filled with lots of tears, and we finally decided to give it a rest and talk tomorrow, so that we could both process what was going on. Jesus Christ, the more I read, the more I'm like, what the hell is Opie's problem? Like, she said it herself, she doesn't actually, dislike the sister, she just thinks their personalities clash and she's kind of tiring to be around. Surely you can just, put that aside for one day. If not for you, then for your husband, for God's sake. Okay, on to another update. So, it's been a week and I feel like it might be okay to do an update now. Just to not waste anyone's time, yes, me and Chris are no longer together. After our initial fight, he decided to stay with his sister, and through that Lilac ended up reaching out to me and apologising for ruining our relationship and her family hounding me for what I said. She invited me out for brunch the following day so we could talk things over, and it went well. The conversation was very long, so I just want to include the important points. I apologised to her for taking out my feelings on her because he is the one who allows her to disrespect our relationship, and she apologised for not coming directly to me to make sure I wasn't uncomfortable about anything that she was doing. I also said that while what I said was true, it was harsh and I never wanted her to know how I felt. She told me I had nothing to apologise for, and that she wasn't expecting me to like her, just to be kind to her. She also told me that if the wedding did continue, she would stay out of both bride and groom sides out of respect for my wishes. Now, onto that. Yes, as I said in the beginning, Chris and I are no longer a couple. He stayed with Lilac for most of the week and invited me out for dinner the other night. During dinner, I offered the prospect of postponing the wedding and seeking couples counselling. Firstly, he apologised for running off to his family during our argument. He denied couples counselling and said that while he will continue therapy to fix his trauma bond with his sister, it was not something he wanted to do with me. He said that even if he does completely heal himself, that he wants someone in his life who loves his family, specifically his sister, as much as he does. He said he truly loves me, but that we were not the best match for each other. He told me I was more than welcome to keep the ring, and because our current home is under his name, he told me that he would give me 2 months to move out, and would be happy to extend it if I was having a hard time. This obviously hurt a lot, so I spent a lot of my time trying to heal and find an apartment. So yeah, that's the update. I love how this whole time Opie kind of makes out the sister to be like this dumb, immature, kind of, stereotypical blonde, but honestly, after reading that update, she seems like the only one mature enough to sit down and speak like an adult. And yeah, ultimately, I don't think the wedding was really the problem here. It was the relationship with the sister that Opie was uncomfortable with, and that was never going to get better. Like, you can't expect people to change their relationships like that, especially if it's family. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one down below, and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one we're sticking on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It's written by user Concerned Dad, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for not inviting my brother on our family barbecue cookout because of my daughter? So, our family has this big barbecue cookout once every 2 months. People take turns on whose house it is going to be at next. This time, it's in our house. These events are really big in our family, almost like a festival, so everyone closer to us will come. Recently, my daughter, who is 13 years old, seemed really upset and tried to make it postponed, or just to avoid it, which is odd because she loves these family cookouts. She wouldn't tell me the reason until she finally did. She said that she is not comfortable with her Uncle Frank, my brother. I asked her why she thinks like that. She says he gives her weird vibes. Some things he does that really makes her uncomfortable. Hugging her tight, holding her waist gently, always gives some excuses to be near her. She claims she caught him looking at her chest. He also makes comments like, "You are going to be a heartbreaker. You are turning into a really beautiful woman. You are mature for your age." Last cookout he asked her if she's kissed anyone. When she was shy, he told her, "Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. It will be our secret." I asked her would she be comfortable if we did not invite him, and she agreed to that. I did just that. I only invited my mum, my dad, my younger brother, and my sister. Frank knew that I didn't invite him. I just said what my daughter told me. Frank took it as an offense and said my daughter is lying. In fact, she was the one who always comes on to him. I told him I cannot have him around her. I'm sorry, but I have to respect my daughter's boundaries. The whole family is divided, but most of them took Frank's side. They think my daughter is just lying for attention. I can tell she's not lying because I heard her crying because she thinks her family hates her. I told her that is not the case and not to blame herself. My brother said since Frank hasn't done anything, it would be unfair to uninvite him because what he said was just words, not like he meant it, and just tell my daughter to stay away from him if he makes her uncomfortable. The only person on my side is my wife. She is sure Frank is showcasing predator behavior towards our daughter. She was groomed when she was a teenager and says this is exactly how it starts. I don't know. I do want my daughter to feel safe. Frank has never shown any type of predator behavior. In fact, I heard him say a lot of times that pedophiles should be sentenced to death. He is overprotective of his own daughter. But on the other hand, I cannot ignore my daughter's feelings. Did I do something wrong here? Oh Lord, this is skin-crawling stuff. Let's go to the comments. "Your 13-year-old came onto me" is about the biggest frickin' red flag in the world. You are being good parents, and if your family takes his side, they deserve to be cut off, not the a-hole. Who the frick could actually utter that phrase anyway? A predator. No one else has ever said a kid was hitting on them in defense of smarmy comments. Plus, with the penalty of being accused of being a predator, why would you risk it and argue for continued invites? If nothing really happened, he'd say, "What the F? I'm going to stay away from your house until you get to the bottom of that, because I'm not down for being labelled a pervert and going to jail. I really think you should seek counselling for your daughter, as those are serious accusations." You'd never say, but she came on to me first. Your daughter was brave enough and comfortable enough with you, her parents, to tell you about something that is making her feel like this in her own home. You now need to be brave enough to support her. You can visit Frank elsewhere if you need to, but exposing your daughter to him again is wrong. You don't need this to escalate to him abusing her before you act, you know now. Your family can side with anyone they want, but you, her parent, need to stand with her. Your wife is right. This is how it starts. People like your family are the reason it continues to happen. I applaud you for having your daughter's back on this, because I didn't have anyone. My mother didn't believe me, and I grew up feeling alone and powerless. Not the a-hole, and keep your boundaries. Uncle Frank is definitely a predator. Okay, on to the first update. This isn't much of an update to my last post, but there was a big fight. I can't tell all the details, but I can say one thing is clear, that my brother Frankie will not be near my daughter. My daughter is very upset because of the fight. Some people are still calling her a liar and an attention seeker, but I can see how it's affecting her mental health. So I've decided to cancel the cookout. Instead we, my wife, my son and my daughter, will go to a Korean barbecue instead. Hope this can cheer her up. I'll give a full update about the whole thing later on. Take care. One commenter says, "I am so sorry about the fight and the probable loss of some of your family, but may I also say, thank you for choosing your daughter. It will be hard for her because she'll feel guilty and think maybe she should have just stayed quiet so the family drama wouldn't be happening. That's going to suck for her. Hopefully her mum can help her since she went through something similar, or maybe she should see a counsellor or maybe a support group." Yeah, it's probably a good idea. Let's go to the last update. Okay, it has been a hectic few days for us. Yes, I did take my daughter out for a Korean barbecue. She enjoyed it. Might have gotten a little sick because she thinks she can handle spice, but happy nonetheless. Well, the talk with my family didn't go so well. They were all defending my brother. They all think either my daughter was lying or trying to frame Frank because she was at that age of being a rebellious teenager. I don't see the point of where she had to lie. She had no bad blood with my brother. She would always say Frank was her favourite uncle. She has no reason to lie. I didn't listen to them. I cancelled the cookout and told them anyone who will call my daughter a liar or a bad name will never be invited to our lives. I said this especially to my parents. They believed me but still tried to defend my brother. Lastly, I talked to Frank in public. He denied everything. He was insistent on my daughter being a liar and that she admitted to having a crush on him. I do not believe that. I told him to not come to our house. If he wants to meet or talk to me, we will go into a public place, but he is never to be seen around my daughter. My younger brother has gone quiet because his fiancée berated him for taking Frank's side. You see, she works with an NGO that helps women who are suffering abuse and assault. She came to our house and had a little chat and explained things to my daughter that this is not her fault. I'm glad my brother picked right. My daughter has been sad. She loved the cookouts and barbecues, and now we might never attend because Frank might be there. She cries and thinks this is her fault. She even said she'll say sorry to Frank and take back what she said, just to be done with it because she doesn't want people to think she's a bad person. It honestly made me sad that she thinks like that. It is not her fault. She shouldn't apologize for something like that. She is still very much disappointed. We will arrange therapy for her. I don't want to lose my cheerful daughter over this. Frank's girlfriend did call me to curse us out, by the way, and she is blocked. That's it. I'm going to focus on my family from now on. I don't need people who blame my daughter instead of the culprit in my life. Yeah, good decisions from OP in the end there. Now for one more comment because it was too good to ignore. If I had a nickel for every family that chooses to defend the sex predator they're related to over the victim they're also related to, I would buy a rocket and fire all of them into the sun. Yeah, me too, bro. Me too. Alright, you know the drill. Thoughts below and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was written by user Pitiful Locksmith and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for inviting my friends to a dinner party but asking them to leave their kid at home? So, I'm part of a friends group. It's about 5 families with kids and we get together once a month or so. Not everyone shows up all the time, but we do what we call a holidays party every year that is always attended by all the families. Extended family is not allowed because the party gets way too big. And this is how we all started with the group, so we all bring our best dishes and stuff we made throughout the year to exchange with each other and we feast. It's easily the best part of the year every year. We can't wait and start planning it in September for around the first week of December. We host this year, which is where the problem begins. There is one family in particular who has a son, 11 years old, that we've known his parents before he was born, and have known him his whole life. He's one of the rudest, most antisocial kids I've ever met. Normally everyone just tolerates and ignores him. For some reason he seems to have a particular problem with my family in general. He has screamed that he hates us and wants to leave our house flopping on the floor at more than one previous get-togethers. My kids are always coming to us crying about how they're being treated by this kid. The kid openly calls others, but in particular my wife, fat or ugly often. The mum and dad seem apologetic, but don't ever do anything to rein him in. Now we are around to making formal invitations and putting out the menu for our party. I hand-deliver them usually with a small gift. When I went to see the family, I asked to speak openly with them about the party invite. We sat down and I, as gently as I felt I could, explained that we love them and their twin daughters are awesome and we would love to have them at the party. However, given that their son has repeatedly treated every member of my family horribly and repeatedly expressed how much he hates my family, I don't want this negative energy at this year's party and asked if he would leave their son at home. They live 5 houses away, so leaving him at home is only a technicality. We offered to make him 3 courses to take to him so he'd still be able to eat. If they had some other requests, we would be happy to accommodate them to help out. They were both surprised and disappointed that I didn't want their son at the party, but agreed that they would find a way to leave him out. In the meantime, they've gone around and complained to the other members of the group, I've been confronted by them with guilt that no kid is perfect, and while I get sympathy and agreement that the kid is really a problem, particularly for my kids, I'm wrong for not inviting the whole family, because they all just suffer through it and my kids aren't perfect. They aren't, but if my kids acted the way this boy does, I'd be doing something about it. I feel like I'm either gonna have to let this kid keep abusing me and my family, or leave a really fun group of people over this one little crappy kid. Oh well, yeah, that is tricky. I mean, let's be honest, the kid's not the only problem here. The parents are to blame just as much. The fact that they initially accepted Opie's decision means that they know how much of a little crap their kid is. Anyway, I'm going to leave this one to you guys. Let me know down below. Would you just suck it up and invite the kid, or would you stand your ground? Something is off about my marriage. We have 3 kids and have been married around 15 years. I'm coming to the realization that I just don't like my wife very much. I asked myself recently if we'd still be together if we didn't have kids, and the answer is a resounding no. I've been in denial for a long time. Our worldviews are completely different. Outside of the honeymoon period, sex has not been good. It's probably once a month now, and I barely want it that often. I had to take Viagra to perform. I've blamed it on an autoimmune disease, but I know the real reason is I'm not attracted to her anymore. I used to have a very high sex drive. The problem is, there's not much I can really point to and say, I can't take this anymore, we need to divorce. She's not abusive, she's affectionate, there's never been infidelity. I think I just have some resentments I can't get past. I've brought up things she's done that bother me, and she'll act like it's no big deal, or she'll think it's resolved when it's not. There's been an issue with her treating me disrespectfully, but it's so subtle she doesn't realize she's doing it, even when I point it out. She's given me the silent treatment about 6 or 7 times in our marriage for a couple of days at a time, but hasn't done it in a few years. I know people will bring up marriage counselling. I brought it up with her, but she seems to think that's for couples that argue constantly. Any advice would be appreciated. This sounds pretty run-of-the-mill as far as stories on here go. Let's look at the comments. I'm going to call it like I see it. Take what I say however you want, but I'll tell you that how you're feeling is very common, and I advise anyone who asks the same way, regardless of gender. You're bored in your relationship, period. So now you're going to convince yourself that it's your wife's fault, that you married the wrong person because she's currently comfortable in her home and with her family in the relationship, so she doesn't feel the need to tiptoe around you 24/7 anymore. And because of this, the grass now appears greener on the other side. Understand that the more you convince yourself these things you are thinking are true, the more it will be. You've already opened that can of worms by going there in your mind. Nobody is perfect, and you will always be able to find fault if you go looking for it. However, now that you're here, the only way out of it is one of 2 things. 1. Blow up your entire family, or 2. Change yourself and start drifting back to her. Because everyone thinks that they're going to rush their spouse into marriage counselling in order to turn them into what they want them to be at the moment these days, and that's not realistic. Here's the shocker though. Marriage counselling is largely unsuccessful because you can't change other people. Want to know what else isn't realistic? Most of our expectations as spouses, especially if we are parents. Most people, male or female, can't work all day, properly take care of multiple kids, and complete all the tasks required of us, while still maintaining the same level of relationship we had in the beginning. That doesn't mean that you have to be miserable in your marriage though. You fell in love with this woman and had these children with her for a reason. You need to find that again. Who knows, maybe she does too. And the only way for that to happen is to spend time with her and seek out the good while you do. Sure, it could be date night or whatever like others here have suggested, but in my experience, it's got to be more than that. You need to spend most of your time with her doing everyday things for a while too. Just like when you first got together and wanted to see her every chance you could. You need to actively try to save your marriage, and that requires a whole lot more than complaining about it. I learned this from my own husband. When we almost broke up, it was me who thought I couldn't do it anymore. There was a little more to our issues, and it was him who was trying to do all the saving, because at the time, I was done with his behaviour. But at the same time, it also wasn't much different than what you were experiencing. It always starts with what is going through your head. What he did was jump in the car and insisted on going with me wherever I went when he was home. He tagged along while I walked to the dog even, started helping me cook and clean, helped me take care of the kids, planned things for us to try as a family, for us to try as a couple, did silly things to make me laugh, told me he loved me, would randomly point out the good things about our life and family and us as a couple. At first it was awkward and I was hesitant, but he ignored it and continued on. And while it took several months, we had real issues, it worked. I slowly started seeing the good again. I fell in love with him all over, and because he changed, I changed. It was just my natural reaction to him. I became a better wife, our sex life improved, our relationship became even more solid, we were able to communicate and rely on one another again, became able to create common goals, we became a real team. Also, if you do confront your wife with these feelings, please use kinder language than you did here. Wow, what a great comment. I don't think anything else needs to be said there. Let's go to the update. First of all, thank you for all the comments. I read all of them even if I wasn't able to reply. I woke up Friday wondering why I was feeling the way I was feeling about my wife. Why did I have to force myself to touch her or tell her I love her? For a long time I thought I had some resentments and repressed anger and thought I just needed to let go of it all. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't necessarily anger, it was disgust. I thought it was strange since my wife is an objectively attractive woman. So I did some Googling and found some articles that described the phenomenon. Apparently this disgust is felt when the marriage falls into mother-son dynamic. When reading these articles, it seemed to describe what was happening in my marriage. I wasn't attracted to my wife because she was acting like my mother, and no man wants to sleep with his mum. I eventually came upon some articles by an author named Laura Doyle. I was shocked because she described the dynamic of my marriage to a T. The gist is the wife will try to control or nag the husband under the guise of helping. Then the husband will take this as disrespect and will pull away and become cold, which then causes the wife to complain about him not being loving, which causes the husband to pull away further as this comes across as more criticism. In Laura's words, men need respect like they need oxygen. I got some alone time with my wife on Saturday and wanted to talk about our marriage. I was very nervous as I wasn't sure how she'd take it. I eventually brought up that I thought the problem was this dynamic. She was shocked and said she didn't see it that way at all, and asked if I could give an example of her treating me like a child. So I mentioned something that happened a few days prior that really bothered me. We have a bin for recyclables under our sink, and I'd inadvertently left some cardboard next to it instead of putting it inside the bin. She then rudely asked if I did that. I said yes, I must have by accident, then came over and picked it up and put it in the bin while she stared at me with an annoyed look. I then said she had a habit of drinking tea in the morning and leaving her cup in some random place, but I always just put the cup away and don't think much of it. I asked her how she'd feel if I asked if she left the cup there, then stared at her as she put the cup in the dishwasher. It seemed like a light bulb went off in her head, and she seemed mortified. She gave a sincere apology and said she'll be more mindful. I felt like a switch flipped once it was clear that it was unintentional. We talked a bit more and she reached out her hand across the table, and I took it. After a bit she looked down and said, "I thought you stopped loving me." That broke my heart. I realized then that I never stopped loving her. We just fell into this dynamic without realizing what was happening. We realized our communication skills were poor, and we needed help. I asked if we could do counseling and she agreed right away, to my surprise. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted. Not long after that we were cooking dinner, and she asked if we could head to the bedroom. I got excited and followed her there. We didn't have much time, but it was the most passionate sex we've had in years, and I didn't need any chemical help this time. Yesterday we got to spend a lot of time together, and I couldn't keep my hands off her. It's funny because for years she had been asking me to touch her more and tell her I love her, but this is the first time I actually wanted to. It ended up being a great day. Even this morning I woke up a few minutes before her alarm and looked forward to her waking up so we could cuddle in bed for a while. I know we still have work to do and we'll need to make sure not to slip into old patterns, but for the first time in years, I feel excited about my marriage. Alrighty guys, and that's that. Great ending there. And yeah, lessons to be learned, I think. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that one. Perhaps you've been in a similar dynamic. Anyway, let me know and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "My dad's friend at church revealed pedophilic struggles in a prayer request at a men's fellowship, but Dad doesn't want me to tell anyone. My dad often asks me to go to something our church calls a men's fellowship once a month, and they basically serve food and have worship and a sermon. It's in a conference room where men are seated together by table, and some dads bring their sons too. My dad started taking me when I was 13-ish. We usually sit with some guys he knows, and I've grown farther from the religion as I've aged. But since it's something that we always used to do, I go for the free food and mostly remain silent, and will stop attending church upon going to college. I sparingly attend Sundays now. But something happened last Saturday that's bothered me and caused a rift between us. During the time where each table is given time to pray for each other's prayer requests, one guy mentioned a porn addiction at our table when we went around. However, when talking about how he tries to fight temptation, he said he purchased a dance belt, something I've never heard of, until he explained how it worked when someone asked, to wear at his daughter's dance recitals and practices because he struggles with the sexual nature of the costumes, but he didn't tell his wife because he didn't want to ruin the dance for his daughter. He also said he used to masturbate to young female dancers and gymnasts growing up because he thought it was better than porn, because they were clothed, and he said his parents raised him on purity too. He also said he sometimes still masturbates to underage dancers and gymnasts as an adult, but that he couldn't go to a therapist because of the subject matter, and he had wanted prayer for a while. However, it really bothered me that he had to wear a dance belt, and it led to an argument with Dad on the ride home. Dad disagreed when I said that something like that should be mentioned to his wife and possibly the police because it reeks of pedophilia, but he disagreed and said it was confidential to the table because it was a prayer request, and he said that prayer was the only action needed. He also said it'd be out of place for someone my age to bring it up, and that I'd be punished if I did when I said I was considering it. Mum also agreed with Dad and told me to mind my own business too, but I'm bothered by the thought of someone like him around kids and his own child who's in middle school with temptation that requires him to wear a dance belt, and I'm strongly considering taking action about it. I just want to ask, what's the most effective way to deal with something like this? Like if it'd be best to go to the police or another source to report it. I also considered telling his wife, but I'm not sure if that's the best course, because it'd most likely be at church. I could also try to find out what studio his daughter attends to warn them, but I'm open to any suggestions from those who might have dealt with something similar. Edit. He said he couldn't bring it to a therapist at the fellowship because he wanted prayer instead. I'm all for helping him, but it sadly doesn't seem like therapy would be something he's open to, and he said he didn't want his wife to find out for their daughter too and ruining her sport. He also blamed purity and said that it made him look to things that weren't sexual to masturbate to because of the guilt purity gave him and how he felt it was better than porn too. Oh my god, I promise I had no idea what I was getting into before I started reading this one, but Jesus Christ. My apologies, guys. But yeah, let's hope Opie does something because this guy is definitely not safe to be around kids. Also, a dance belt is that thing that male ballet dancers use to keep their, bits nice and snug, and it also hides spontaneous erections, just so you know. Okay, on to some comments. Does anyone else remember the story of the teenage girl who was no longer allowed in dance or gymnastics because her father was having issues? The younger daughter was allowed to go, and the father was using the excuse that he was being tempted by Satan and God, and the church was helping him. They abused the older daughter, and she wasn't even allowed to speak to her sister. They had cameras all over the house. Could be the same guy. Yeah, I remember reading that story actually a few months ago. Another commenter says, "Do it anonymously. It's not like you're the only one who heard what he said. How many people were at that meeting?" He admitted to masturbating to little girls and says they were clothed. I would leave a tip with the FBI for CP on his computer. Okay, on to an update. A lot of the advice I received recommended going to the FBI over the police in case any cops happen to attend our church, and some also suggested contacting CPS since the man, who we'll call Greg from now on, has an underage daughter. Some also said to not expect CPS to do much because they often don't do much in cases with little proof, but that it was good to get a paper trail in case things escalate. Some also suggested calling a relative to get some real-life advice from an adult, and I decided to do so on Saturday after getting a lot of advice from my post on Friday. I decided on calling my grandpa, and we ended up talking for well over an hour as he had a lot to say, including things I hadn't thought of. He also laid out a plan of what he would have done if he were at that table, and I'll explain what that was too. First and foremost, he said he was very disappointed in my dad after hearing everything, and I want to add that Grandpa isn't religious and didn't raise my dad religious. My dad became Christian as an adult, and we go to a Pentecostal church. Grandpa said that Dad was setting a terrible example of what a responsible man should be, and when I told him that Dad said it was none of our business besides to pray, he said it became his business when Greg admitted to pedophilia, which he said was described as sexual attraction directed towards children, that he admitted by disclosing how he masturbates to underage dancers and gymnasts. He also said that Dad, along with the other men, but he doesn't know them, had an obligation to be the adult that Greg refused to be for the sake of his wife and especially his daughter. Because Greg was being immature and selfish by refusing to get therapy and asking the table to not tell his wife. He also said he didn't believe Greg was serious about changing because he refused therapy and didn't remove himself from the situation, the dance studio, and he thinks he brought it up to rationalize continuing in his brain, along with the dance belt Greg stated he wore to his daughter's dance recitals and practice, which he might have rationalized was his change. When I asked what he meant by rationalizing, he said that Greg rationalized that masturbating to underage dancers and gymnasts was, quote, better than porn, as he stated at the table, and Grandpa said that purity culture was partly to blame, though not completely to absolve Greg from his ways. He said purity culture suppressed a lot of natural and healthy sexual growth for teens, and in Greg's case, guilted him and taught that porn was bad, which made Greg look to non-sexual sources to find sexual gratification, and that's how he probably began masturbating to underage dancers in his teens and never stopped upon becoming an adult. He also said that men are often overlooked when discussing the harms of purity culture, but that it, in this case, helped direct Greg towards non-sexual sources to lust after instead of porn that is often done by consenting actors and actresses. So when it came to what Dad should have done, he laid out a plan of what he thought was best. 1. First, he said that pedophiles work in secrecy, so the first thing he would have done was tell Greg, if Grandpa was at the table, that he was obligated as a father to tell his wife for his own good and the safety of his family and daughter, regardless of if it made him upset because his daughter participated in the sport that made him wear a dance belt because he struggles to control himself. 2. Second, he would talk to his wife, with Greg hopefully present, about arranging a network of other women, including Dad's wife and potentially, but unlikely, wives of the other men at the table, to drive his daughter to dance in the event Greg's wife couldn't take her, because Greg shouldn't be there under any circumstances currently. Third, he would have told them that he has limited time, maybe 2-ish weeks as someone suggested, to find a therapist after previously disclosing everything to his wife in step 1, and, if need be, to ask for assistance in finding one, but if he refused, he would take it to the authorities because he wasn't serious about change. And fourth, he would have gone with Greg to tell the pastor to prevent Greg from being around other kids in the church, even if it meant not attending for some time. However, he was also hesitant of the last step due to the nature of churches covering for their own and trying to convince my dad of not going to the authorities, so he was a bit torn on the last one. When we were almost done our call, Grandpa said he was hesitant to try and talk sense into Dad because he knew how he was and didn't think he would listen due to previous disagreements. But when he said that they could also get me into trouble for telling him, I suggested that he try to give Dad a chance, even though it seemed slim, because I had no pull to enact Grandpa's plan as a kid to hold him accountable. However, in the event that Dad refused, Grandpa said I could drive to his place to send a report to the FBI along with CPS with his help, and we picked a day for next week on the phone. So Grandma called Dad shortly after we spoke, and long story short, Dad was upset that I vented to Grandpa and said that Grandpa didn't understand. He also said it's disrespectful to go to another parent and adult when one already spoke. So after Dad finished talking to me, I called Grandpa back to basically confirm going to his place because I wouldn't be able to convince Greg myself as a kid, along with not having any pull with Dad's other friends at the table. And Grandpa said he lost a lot of respect for Dad because Dad yelled at Grandpa after providing worldly advice and going over Dad's head. I really appreciate all the advice and links to CPS and FBI that I'll use in person with Grandpa, and I'm sorry that this post came out so long too. Wow, thank God for Grandpa, right? Like everything he said was spot on about Greg not actually being interested in rehabilitation and also his lack of action around the fact. Like if Greg was really serious about getting better, like surely the first thing you would do is remove yourself from the room, right? Like this church environment that they're putting themselves in, it might not be exactly encouraging it, but it's certainly not hindering it, which is a problem. And yeah, that whole spiel about purity culture is really interesting as well. It's kind of a bit like, and this could be a completely wrong analogy, but you know how like when a kid grows up with like really strict parents and they end up becoming more reckless, especially later in life, because they've been refused that experience, either when they're younger or when they're just not with their parents? Maybe that's a similar thing with purity culture, because anything of a sexual nature is taboo within, hyper-religious families. They tend to get denied education, experiences, and then stuff like this happens. I don't know, that's just my wild opinion. Give me your thoughts about that one. Ending my 5-year marriage over a paternity test my mother-in-law requested. I'll try my best not to make this a word wall. I don't know where to start. This whole situation is embarrassing and I'm just done with it. I've been with my husband for 5 years now, married for 3. Well, long story short, his mum was always overwhelming and bold with her input on everything, to put it nicely. I genuinely think it's not fair to be mad at your partner for something he didn't do himself. He can't control what his mum does or says, but what's also not fair is him not addressing it when I'm clearly uncomfortable or upset, and instead just talking me into brushing it off or going with it. I never, nor would I ever, have a back and forth with my mother-in-law, just not worth barking at each other. I always kind of brush it off if it's a snarky comment, or if it's a better way to do something in her opinion, I'll just tell her thanks for the suggestion, but we are fine. It's actually true, the saying, when you marry someone, you marry their family. I think the way to handle it is each spouse should keep his side of the family in line, for lack of a better way to say it. I deal with my parents and their shenanigans, and I expected him to do the same. He never did. He always asked me to give her some grace. Well, it's hard when that person is insulting you. For a while now, she's been making comments about how my son doesn't look like my husband when he was a toddler, basically accusing me of sleeping around. This, rightfully so, upset me. Sorry, my genes are strong, what do I tell you? I was short with my husband because he didn't address how out of pocket and disrespectful this whole thing is. It has been a week since my husband, well, soon-to-be ex-husband, told me that he would be doing a paternity DNA test, not because he thinks that it's not his son, but to shut his mum up. Yes, exactly what you read. I don't know which one is worse, him accusing me of cheating, or this crap, but all I know is this is audacious. I didn't cheat, and I'm not concerned one bit about the test results. I wasn't going to stop him from taking a DNA test or whatever, but I just know I don't want to deal with this any longer. I'm looking for an apartment, and I talked to a lawyer the day after he brought his DNA test thing up, and I've been acting more than normal since. We'll be getting the results in 2 days. I can't wait. He would also be getting the divorce papers with that too. I know for a fact he won't see it coming. I tried my best to make this whole thing work and manage my relationship with my mother-in-law as gracefully as possible, but thinking about it, it's not just my mother-in-law that's the problem, but how he is handling things is also a problem. And, side note, I've never been more glad that I didn't leave my job when I got married. He makes more than enough to take care of the financial side of things. I thought I would get bored. I only have to be on site 2 days per week. Also, I really love my job and the company, so I didn't leave. Best decision I ever made. He is unreliable, to say the least. I know that divorce can be hard on kids, but I experienced the other side. Living with 2 parents that hated each other and violently fought almost all the time is as hard, maybe even harder. They thought that staying together would be good for me and my siblings. Newsflash, it wasn't. It was traumatizing, to say the least. I don't remember. I either read somewhere, or maybe my therapist told me, that when you fight with your spouse, you shouldn't see it as me versus you, but more like me and you versus the particular situation or problem on hand, and try to figure it out. But it's really hard to do so when you start hating that person. I don't want my son to live like that, because I just can't stand my husband anymore. I don't know if this is a weird way of saying it, but I just don't respect him anymore, if that makes sense. I just see an unreliable man, and I know for a fact that our fights won't be the same as before. I would have said what a waste of 5 years, but I have a sweet and smart gremlin now, and having a child really pushes you to be better and to do better, so I can't complain. Geez, honestly, sounds like Opie's husband just needs to grow a backbone. Let's look at the comments. My husband and I have a rule that he deals with his parents and I deal with mine. We also make sure that we're united front in front of them. We can disagree privately, but they know that they will get the same answer out of both of us, so not to bother trying to play us against each other. We also both stand up for each other every single time. All of our parents fully understand that we put each other first and them second. Everyone gets along, and for the most part I think this is why. Opie replies, I like this comment. This is exactly what a healthy relationship would look like in my opinion. Hearing each other out, being respectful to our parents, yet putting our foot down when needed. I don't know, he just seems like he can't or maybe doesn't want to put his foot down when it comes to his mother. Either way, not my problem anymore. Looks like your mother-in-law gets what she wanted, her baby boy back, who won't stand up for himself. Hope they're happy together. I'm sorry this has gone this way for you. Your mother-in-law sounds like a real piece of work, and him not standing up for you and telling his mother if she makes another comment about you deceiving your husband with a whole-ass baby, he'll go no contact, is so bizarre to me. He sounds like a mama's boy that has no spine. Getting a paternity test so mummy can see. So gross. I'd lose respect for him too. Good luck in your future endeavours, and hopefully those divorce papers slap his ass back to reality. Now his mummy can have her precious son back, and they could be together. Weirdos. Okay, now for the update. Here to update you, as a lot of people were interested. But real quick, I have a comment about my last post. Please, if you're going through something serious, think twice before posting it. Obviously, I was expecting people to tell me I'm overreacting, but there are also people who will leave you with comments like, you're a disgusting piece of crap, I hope he takes your child from you in the divorce, and you realise what kind of monster you are, and then go about their day, which was my cue to stop reading comments that night. The update. The day he was supposed to receive the results, I called my father-in-law and invited them to come over that evening. He was working when he got the results. He sent them to me and told me he would talk to his mother to finally put this to rest. I informed him that I'd already invited them for this evening, and I'm just waiting for my apology before I leave. I asked that he come home so we can talk before they come over. He called, and I basically told him that this is not working for me anymore. I've already talked to an attorney, filed for divorce, and it might be more expensive than a paternity test, but it would be more effective making his mother happy. And no, I don't care that it was working when I told him. I don't think you would have either. He left work and came home. Long story short, we had a spectacular fight. He said that I'm not thinking about my son and I'm overreacting because it's not like he went behind my back. And if he knew that I was this upset, he wouldn't have done it. But he knew. We fought about it when he brought it up. He just didn't care. When I gave him the divorce papers, he said he's not signing anything and he'll ask his mother to apologise when his parents arrive and get done with this. Listen, I don't need him to sign it to get a divorce. It would only make things complicated, that's it. His mother said she has nothing to apologise for, and she wouldn't apologise for having suspicions. She didn't accuse me of anything and I can leave if I want to. So that's that. I did leave that night because I wasn't going to get an apology, and he didn't seem to understand that him reinforcing that it's okay for her to meddle is why I want a divorce in the first place. He eventually told his parents he'll be coming over from time to time to check up on them. He's their only child, and not to bother coming over anymore until she apologises. She wasn't amused. She told me I'm taking her son away and some tramp would take my son too. She's not someone that you can talk to, I'll tell you that much. It's like talking to a wall. All she knows is insulting or being passive-aggressive on a good day. We're not getting a divorce. We talked the day after. He said I can always file for a divorce, but we should at least try couples counselling because he doesn't want to co-parent. Edit, he doesn't want to lose his son, plain and simple. Although it's not like if we were to get divorced he wouldn't be able to see his son, but whatever. He did say when we talked the second time that he can see how he was wrong, especially knowing his mother. He also mentioned that he'll just shut her down if she meddles this time. But what can I do with just words? I hope he can learn a thing or two on how to deal with his mother in counselling, because she is truly overwhelming. If counselling would help him understand that a couple means two people, not three, and our marriage is a bit crowded right now, and that's enough for me. People saying that I'm overreacting in my last post made me ask myself, do I actually want a divorce or am I just mad? I wanted the divorce at the time. It seemed like the only solution, but if cancelling would help us, I can try to work things out. I hope this is a good decision. If not, I'm not stuck. I'll take my son and leave. I have a friend who got divorced in 20 days, an uncontested divorce. When you're on the same page regarding how things would be divided, including custody, it's a matter of how long the court would take to review and finalise the divorce, and you'll be done. That was my plan. Nonetheless, I'm the one working from home, and my son is still so young. It's totally up to him. If he wants to see his son every day when he gets off work, or if he wants to see his son just a couple of times per week, because I'm not tolerating this anymore. Oh, and one last thing. People in my last post were debating if paternity tests should be mandatory or not. I thought that from what I wrote, it was clear that I didn't cheat, and I have nothing against the paternity test itself. It should be obvious to everyone that it's not fair for the child nor the man to be tricked into living a lie. If he was the one who had suspicions, that's a big deal. We would have talked about why he thinks that, taken the paternity test for his peace of mind, and made sure we can trust each other, then move on, all without anyone interfering, let alone requesting the frickin' paternity test. Edit 2. Someone asked, curious why they asked for the test and why you're so against it. I don't want to assume there was some troubles in the past, but I feel like there's a lot of lead-up and information left out here. At this point, I've shared so much that these aren't too many details, I guess. I'm not religious. I also dated women at a certain time. She doesn't like that and thinks that me not being religious or not being straight means I have no values or something. She hates that her son married a non-religious person. He is a believer, but he's a non-practicing believer. Either way, his religion, or my lack of belief, doesn't cause us any problems in our day-to-day life. I hope this clarifies things for you. Alrighty folks, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, I guess Opie can only hope that the husband gets something out of cancelling and chooses to step up in his life at some point. Like, we can't choose our parents, but we can choose to implement boundaries to safeguard the respect of our partners. Could be a hard lesson for the husband, but a necessary one nonetheless. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was from the same subreddit. It was written by user Lost and it's titled, My Husband Killed Someone and Can't Cope. 5 months ago, a woman purposely walked in front of my husband's truck. He struck her and was killed. Much like the people who kill their family before killing themselves, she was so selfish, basically taking him with her. He quit on the spot. His employer should have recognised that he was in distress and given him some time off, instead of accepting his resignation, but they didn't. I'm 8 months pregnant, and before someone says, you shouldn't have kids if you can't afford them, I know. We are in a world of hurt right now, and it's only going to get worse. The accident brought up bad juju from an accident 10 years ago, where he lost his wife and son. He has anxiety that he didn't have before. He goes to therapy but hasn't driven since the accident. He would rather walk in 100 degrees heat than get behind the wheel. He has driven trucks for nearly 13 years now. It's all he knows. I know mental health is so important, but we're at a dead end. I won't insult him by acting like I know what he's going through or what he is feeling, but we can't afford for him to grieve any longer. I've been telling him for the last month that we are running out of money. We have less than $100 to our names, and our pantry is bare. Life can't wait for him to get ready. I don't know what ultimatum I can give him that will snap him back to reality, but next week we are going to be living on the street. We are on a month-to-month lease because we don't have the best credit, so if we don't pay, we are out. I've already pushed our car payment back as much as I could. We've used our get-out-of-jail-free cards, used all generosity from our family and friends, and I've exhausted local resources. I work full-time in a salon and simply don't make enough to support us. I try finding odd side jobs, but I'm limited until after I give birth. I don't want to come off as insensitive, but he needs to go back to work. We had a small savings that we've been using, but that money is gone. My husband insisted he help out the women's family with final expenses, which I was against, but he did it anyway. He feels guilty. And I feel like the worst be-wife in the world saying all of this, but I can't do this alone. Oh man, it goes without saying that this is a horrible situation to be in. Let's see what the comments say. Have you spoken to an attorney or liability attorney, accident attorney about any of this? Since he was driving a company truck and she basically committed suicide, I'd think their insurance would have liability. If you haven't, I highly recommend that you do. Statute of limitations is generally 2 years from the date of the accident. I'm so sorry. This is just an awful situation all the way around. Don't beat yourself up. You're holding everything together by a thread, like Atlas holding the world. I'm not sure if you're in the US, but the first thing I thought of is Social Security disability. Many mental health conditions qualify, including PTSD. Retired paralegal. If he was in the company vehicle or on the job working while driving that vehicle, that would be covered under workman's compensation. I think a case could be made concerning his mental stability when he quit his job. They certainly should have offered him help. Can he draw his unemployment? Did he have short-term and/or disability? Could he have qualified for FMLA? I know in Oklahoma there has to be at least 50 employees. You really need to talk to an attorney. Call your local bar association and ask them to refer you to an attorney that could answer questions concerning work comp, employment, laws, and they could refer you to a good therapist. As this was brought on by the accident, they really should be responsible for all of his medical bills. Did he have insurance? Okay, now before we go on, I just want to warn you folks that this story is about to get even darker. So if you have any triggers regarding suicide or things like that, it might be best to maybe skip ahead a little bit, or even maybe sit this one out from this point. That being said, let's move on to an update. It was written a couple weeks later, and it's titled, "My husband took his life in front of me." This happened a few days ago, and it's a cruel, twisted irony that I made this Reddit post asking how hard I should push him to go back to work. My last post was about how we're going to lose our place, because my husband couldn't recover after a woman stepped in front of his semi 7-ish months ago. I said it was like she took him with her. Now he is actually gone, and it's not even the same. Before I get some assholes asking why are you posting right now, I don't know what to do. I notified his family. After my last post, I pushed him to try to get his job back, and they took him back with open arms, which was a huge blessing and surprise. When I called his boss yesterday to tell him my husband wouldn't be coming back, he told me that the company would pay for his funeral. He had been with them for nearly 10 years before he abruptly quit the day of the accident. He needed therapy and time off, but thought the best thing, the easiest thing, would be to quit and try and handle it alone. If you have people in your corner, and if you have resources available to you, please use them. Did you know if someone unalives themselves in your house, you are responsible for cleanup? If you are renting and don't have renter's insurance, it's on you. I'm 8 months pregnant, and I'm being induced next week, and I can't even go inside my house. I contacted the church we had been to on and off, where we got married, and suicide is a sin, so no help there. I think I was too hard on him in the last few weeks. I had let the stress build up, and didn't tell him how bad things were until it was too late. He thought, oh, she can handle it like she always does. We have to stop thinking like that, and by we I mean anyone who is reading this, because I'm sure you do it too. I brought up adoption because who would choose to bring a child into this world being poor? That is what a lot of comments told me, and they were right. I'm being induced next week, and I don't even have a clean environment to bring a baby back to. It's the last piece of my husband, and I don't know if I deserve to raise him. I know I might have seemed like an a-hole about my husband. I'm just stressed. But he was a good man who deserved to be a father, and he deserved to be here. He just didn't see that, and I think I'll have a broken heart for the rest of my life. If anyone is in my area who wants to sit on the curb and drink lukewarm bottled water with a stranger, my DMs are open. If you are struggling, please get help. You are not weak or less than. Mental health is so important and serious. Please. Update. Wow, I can't keep up with the comments. For privacy's sake, I'll just say Illinois. I have a lot of places to call, so thank you to every single kind comment and message. I won't say I'm okay or that I will be anytime soon, but I'm safe. One commenter says, with a baby, you are entitled to widow benefits from Social Security. You should speak with that office to get the claim started. You will receive a benefit and your baby will too. You will also be eligible for healthcare for both of you through Medicaid and WIC and a variety of other programs because you have a baby and just lost one entire income and person providing it. I'm so sorry for your loss, and I hope you can find your way clear of this darkness. Okay, now for the final update. This is an update to those of you who asked on my last post, so I hope it's okay that I do so. I had my baby boy this past weekend, 8 pounds, 5 ounces, and 19.5 inches. I wanted to share the news because when I texted his family the day he arrived, I was told they wanted to know nothing about him and didn't want to see any pictures. Heart-crushing is an understatement. Trying to sign up for survivor benefits in WIC while also filling out life insurance paperwork is surreal. I just hope it's approved ASAP. I'm keeping my baby no matter how hard it'll be. I never thought I'd be sending my husband to heaven and welcoming his boy within a week of each other. I want to believe they somehow cross paths up there because the thought of him not meeting or never knowing his precious son is unfathomable. Wow, what a truly heartbreaking story. I really can't think of anything to say to that other than, I wish OP all the best. She sounds like she has a really strong character, and that almost puts into perspective our own lives in a way. No matter how hard it is, we have the strength to pull through. I think the baby will be a good thing for her in the end. It'll keep her going. Am I the a-hole if I call off my engagement because of a comment my fiancé made about my late wife? For some background info, I, 43 male, have 2 children with my late wife Kayla. Sam, 21 male, and Liz, 16 female, all fake names. Kayla passed away when our kids were 15 and 10. I won't give specifics about how she passed, but she was struck by a drunk driver when she was on her way home from work. She really was the love of my life, and to say that her passing hit our family hard would be an understatement. I promised myself that if I got back into the dating game, I wouldn't date anyone for at least a couple of years, for the sake of my kids. 3 years after my wife's passing, I met my now fiancée. We'll call her Amanda. Things went slow and I didn't introduce her to my kids until we'd been dating for about a year at that point. Now we've been together for 3 years and are engaged. Amanda and my kids have always had a good relationship. Neither of my kids are super close to her, but they have always been friendly and welcoming to her. And Amanda has never overstepped any boundaries my kids have, like trying to replace their mother. At the beginning of Amanda and I's relationship, she was a bit insecure of the fact that I was a widower. During the first few months of us dating, she would constantly ask things like, if Kayla had never passed, would I still be with her right now? I always kept my answers brief and told her that I didn't like thinking about the what-ifs, and that she was the one I was dating now, and that was what mattered. Eventually she stopped making these comments and I stopped worrying about it. Now to the issue. My parents were hosting a family dinner to celebrate my fiancé and I's engagement. It was my mum and dad, my late wife's sister and her husband, Sam and Liz, and me and Amanda. Dinner was going well. We were all making small talk with each other and talked about wedding plans. About halfway into dinner, my mum made a comment about how she was so happy I was able to find the spark I had with Kayla in someone else. I don't think anybody really paid much attention to the comment. Then Amanda laughed and said, I'm happy she died, otherwise I would never have gotten him to myself. The tone of the dinner immediately shifted and everyone got extremely tense, especially my kids. Amanda noticed the shift and started awkwardly laughing like she was trying to play her comment off as a joke. I was honestly just frozen, as that was the first time she'd made a comment like that. My kids looked disgusted and Liz got up and walked out to the car. Sam waited a bit longer like he wanted me to say something, but I was still in shock about what Amanda had said. To make a long story about the dinner short, the dinner was kind of ruined, so I said my goodbyes to everyone, grabbed my fiancé and we all drove home. My daughter hasn't spoken to me or Amanda since, and it's been 3 days. I got tired of it and pulled my son aside to ask him what I should do. He said something along the lines of, I'm a grown man and don't care who another grown man marries, but I don't want a woman who speaks like that about our mother around my sister. Sam's comment stuck with me, and now I'm considering calling off the engagement entirely. She's never made comments like this before, but I'm worried if I let it slide this one time, it will become more frequent, and it will affect my daughter. I need some advice from outside perspectives, and just want to do right by my kids. Would I be the a-hole if I called off the engagement because of the comments she made? Okay, on to some comments and then a quick edit. Yeah, she's never gonna let this go. You can. Your son just told you the deal. It's her or them. Choose wisely. I'm happy she died would be unforgivable for me, especially knowing my kids heard my fiancé say that. Disgusting. I wouldn't be able to not think about that every time I looked at them. Not the a-hole. What Amanda said was distasteful. In vino veritas. Perhaps that's how she sees this relationship. Fighting with a dead person. She will never win. She is bitter and jealous of what you two had. Your mother also shouldn't have said such a thing. It was also distasteful. I think you will lose your kids if you marry her. Sorry. Opie gives an edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to get so much advice so shortly after posting this. Nonetheless, thank all of you for the advice and even the people calling me a bad father. I think your guys' words are what I needed to pull my head out of my ass. I'll try to talk to my kids alone tonight before speaking with my fiancé, and we'll see where it goes from here. I'm pretty sure my fiancé and I are over though. I'll update late tonight or tomorrow on how the talks with everyone goes. Thank all of you again for setting my head straight. Yeah, surely a comment like that doesn't just slip out. Like, even if she truly didn't mean it, that's a major blunder. You can't do that. Alright, let's go to the update. This is an update post for those who have read my initial post asking for advice. I promised I would update everyone after I talked to my kids, so here's the update. It's kind of long, so I hope that doesn't go against the rules of this community. I'm also going to use this update as a way to clarify some of the questions people were asking in the comments. 1. Did my fiancée apologize to anyone at the dinner party? No, she didn't. I honestly don't think it even registered or has registered to her that what she said was wrong. 2. Does fiancé have social anxiety? Not to my knowledge, no. In all the time I've known her, she's never shown any signs of social anxiety and doesn't have a history of it. 3. How old was my late wife? She was 37 when she passed, and we were the same age. Amanda is 41. A lot of people were asking for clarification on the time frame of her passing and when my fiancé and I met. At this point in time, Kayla has been gone for about 6 years, and I met Amanda roughly 3 years after Kayla's passing. I didn't mention either of their ages as I didn't believe it was important because we're so close in age, but I understand why a lot of you guys would want to know. Now that I've clarified the things I was most asked about in the comments, we can get into the update. While I'm writing this update, it's the day after I talked to my kids, so last night at around 5:30, my fiancée left for work. She works nights most days of the week, so I was able to call my son and ask if he could come over so I can talk to him and his sister. He goes to our local college and lives in an apartment near his school. When he started college, he wanted to move out, but also wanted to stay close to us, so he settled on an apartment a few blocks away from the college. He came over and I called him and his sister into the living room to talk with the both of them. When they were both seated, I told them point blank that I didn't think the wedding was happening anymore, and that the comment she made was unacceptable. I then, by the advice of the comments, apologized to them. I told them I was sorry for not saying anything for so long, and letting the tension thicken in our home. I told my daughter that I understood why she hasn't spoken to me, and that I was sorry for allowing her to think that I was even remotely okay with what she said. I felt pretty spineless after we'd gotten back from dinner that night, so I wanted to do everything in my power to make it right with my kids during the conversation. My daughter told me that she felt disgusted at the comment Amanda made, and even more so when I didn't defend her mother. She then told me that the past 2 years that she's known Amanda, she felt like she's been gradually trying to push her and Sam away from me. One of the examples Liv gave was when my son moved out. He moved out when he was about to start his sophomore year of college, and when he mentioned the idea of moving out, Amanda was the one who took that and ran with it. According to Liz, Amanda was the one encouraging Sam the most to move out. To be clear, I was never against Sam moving out, but I was clear to him that he was welcome to live at home for his college years and even after until he found where he wanted to be. I asked Sam if he felt pushed out by Amanda and if that's why he moved out. He said he hadn't felt pushed out before he told everyone he wanted to move, but after he put it out there, my fiancée kept pushing for him to move out. Liz cut in and said that every time she brings up college, Amanda keeps encouraging her to go out of state. Liz doesn't plan on going out of state, and she's been open about wanting to go to the college Sam is attending right now. Liz said she feels like Amanda is waiting till she graduates high school and goes to college so she can move out. A lot of the comments were right about the subtle comments eventually turning into Amanda wanting my kids pushed away from me. Liz said that she was scared that by the time I eventually noticed the way Amanda was acting, too big of a wedge would have already been driven between me and them. I told my kids that I'm sorry it's taken me this long to notice, and that I was also sorry that they've been walking on eggshells for so long. I hugged my kids and told them that no matter what, they are my top priority, not Amanda or anybody else. A lot of comments pointed out that even though my son has grown, he still needs his father, and I made sure to let my son know that I'll always be there for him and his sister, even when they are well grown. The entire conversation lasted about 2 hours. We covered a lot of the bases we wanted to, and it got emotional on all sides. In short, Amanda and I are done. I've made it a point to tell my kids that none of this situation is their fault, and that Amanda is the grown woman who said what she said. My kids and I are okay right now, but they aren't 100% with me and probably won't be for a while. I'm completely fine with that and just want my kids comfortable in their own home. Amanda has tomorrow off from work, so I plan on talking to her tomorrow. I also plan on calling my mother to ask her why she thought it was okay to even bring up Kayla at the dinner. I don't want my daughter here when it all goes down, so she's staying tonight and tomorrow with Sam. So that's where I'm at right now. Not super happy about the outcome of me and Amanda, but would rather have my kids happy and healthy than have a wife. Again, thank you everyone for the advice and the harsh words. I'll update after I call it off with Amanda. Thank you everyone. Okay, let's go straight to that last update. Okay everyone, here's the update you guys were waiting for. Again, this is a long post, even longer than the last update, and I suggest reading my previous posts if you haven't for the context of this situation. So where we last left off is my kids and I talked, made up, and my daughter is staying with her brother so she doesn't get caught up in what was about to happen with my now ex-fiancé. Before the hard part of the day, breaking it off with Amanda, I made a call to my mum to let her know of the situation. A lot of the comments told me to not bash my mum for the comment she made. Now thinking back on the situation with a clear mind, the comment my mother made towards Amanda was most definitely a compliment towards her, and that was confirmed in the call I had with her. My mother, bless her heart, felt extremely guilty for the entire situation. She fully believed the situation all stemmed from her one comment. I assured her that none of the situation was her fault, and that I've never blamed her one bit for any of this. We talked a bit more before I let her go. The call ended at about 9:15 a.m, and I was left waiting for Amanda to wake up. She woke up at around 10:30 a.m, and I didn't want to ambush her straight after she woke up, so I waited until about 11:10 a.m. to sit her down and talk. A lot of people in the comments suggested to secretly video the whole thing. I thought that was extremely smart, so I had my phone set to record in my back pocket the entire time. I didn't think she'd try to do anything drastic, but I would rather be safe than sorry. The talk with her went about as well as anyone could imagine, so not at all. I told her I needed to talk with her, that it was serious, and we sat in the living room. When we were seated, I began unloading at her about the comment she made about Kayla at my parents' house, how it made my kids feel, how it made me feel, her lack of an apology, of any sort of acknowledgement to what she said, and so on. I told her I expect her to give an apology to my parents, my in-laws, and most importantly, my kids. During the entire time of me unloading on her, she didn't seem to show any bit of emotion other than her eyes, which were slightly wider than normal. After I spoke my truth, she straight up asked, "So, if I apologize to everyone, we'll go back to normal?" I told her point blank, no. I told her that the comment she made at dinner was not the extent of my problems with her. I then told her that I know she heavily pressured Sam to move out, when he wasn't even sure if he wanted to at that point in time, and that I also know she is now trying to do the same with Liz. I did my absolute best to leave my kids out of the situation, but told Amanda that the way my kids described her treatment towards them was the main reason I don't see a future with her anymore. Amanda was stone-faced up until I told her we were done. I think that's when the panic set in for her. She kept saying that she'll apologize to everyone, that she'll make it right with my kids, etc., etc. I told her that if she apologizes, I will certainly appreciate it, but we were still done either way. She was full on crying at this point and asked me, why wasn't I willing to try and fix our relationship? and I told her that even though I loved her, and I will be honest, I still love her very much, I was not willing to take another chance of my kids being hurt against the way they were. I was frustrated and shot back at her asking her why she was trying to push my kids out of their own home, and I got back an answer I was not at all expecting. I was completely shocked at her response, but a lot of you guys won't be. A lot of commenters actually hit the nail right on the head with what Amanda was truly like. Amanda responded with, "Well, I didn't know you expected me to house somebody else's kids for the rest of my life." I immediately saw red, and after about a minute, I told her to get out. I told her that my kids can go wherever they please, especially in the house that I own and pay for. She tried to retaliate, but in the end, ended up packing a few bags and going to stay with one of her friends. I emailed a copy of the phone recording to myself. The talk only lasted about 25 minutes, not nearly as long as the talk I had with my kids, so if anything ends up coming of the conversation, I have all I need to keep my name clear. I've texted my kids that Amanda is out of the house for good, that they are welcome to come home any time, and let my son know that if he wants to, he is more than welcome to move back in completely. My daughter is coming back from her brother's place in the afternoon, and I still have phone calls to make to my parents and in-laws to apologize for this mess of a situation. Amanda is out of my house, but keeps blowing up my phone for us to try to work things out. I'll let her come by in the next few days so she can collect the rest of her stuff out of my house, but she is not welcome to live here again. I'll be honest and say that I am a bit devastated. Despite everything Amanda did, I still love her, and I probably won't stop loving her for a minute. But I'll be okay. Right now, I just want to focus on the family that needs me, and will use this situation as an excuse to bond more with my kids. Another big thank you to everyone who helped me in the comments. A lot of the advice you guys gave played a part in making things right with my family. I will update if anything else big or important happens, but as of now, I'm taking it one step at a time and making it right with my family. Okay folks, and there you go, that's the end of that one. Yeah, so it looks like the truth came out eventually. Why do people like this get together with people that they know have kids? Like if raising someone else's kids was a problem, why would you be getting married to them? It just doesn't really make sense. I guess she was kind of like waiting for the kids to leave so she could start her own kind of family. At least that might have been her hope, but yeah, seems weird. Anyway, give me your thoughts about that one, and we'll go to our next story. Alrighty, we're on the same subreddit. This one's a quick one, written by user LumpyFloor, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for asking my wife to please stop flashing her breasts to people? My 32 male, wife 30 female, and I have been together 11 years, married for just over 5 years. Ever since I met her in college, she's been insecure about her appearance, specifically her body. When we got our first jobs out of college and became financially stable, she approached me and asked how I felt about her getting a boob job. To be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the idea. I told her I loved her how she is, and that I don't think she needed one. Also, just personal preference, I've never really liked fake boobs. I just think they look oddly perky and not natural, and I've dated women in the past with varying chest size and would prefer a woman with small or no chest compared to someone with fake boobs. They always looked bolted on to me, but knowing how much it has bothered her, I told her I would support her decision either way. After thinking about it for a while, she approached me again to say that if I was still serious with my answer, that I would support her either way, that she was going to proceed with the operation, as it's been something that has affected her self-esteem for a long time. I wasn't sure how to feel about it at first. I thought about talking her out of it, but wanted to stand by my original answer and support her either way. In 2021, after COVID settled down and elective procedures were taking place again, she went and got a boob job. I will say her surgeon was fantastic, and things did end up looking very good considering my prior opinion. The problem I've had is ever since she's gotten her boob job, it's definitely emboldened her to put them on display, so to speak. She went from wearing baggy and unrevealing clothing to very tight and revealing t-shirts with a lot of cleavage. I had dated bigger-chested women in the past, so I was pretty used to it. It just threw me off in the beginning. One thing that I'm not adjusting well to is her over-willingness to show people her bare breasts. It's no secret to anyone that has known her for a long time that she got a boob job. At first it was mostly her just showing her girlfriends, which was still weird to me but didn't really cross a boundary for me. However, it's almost as if the more and more she's shown them off and gotten validation, the more and more enabled she is to continue doing it. The first time it crossed a boundary for me was when we were at a friend's house for dinner and drinks, and she had a little bit too much to drink and showed her girlfriend her breasts while her girlfriend's husband was standing right there. We fought in the car about it on the way home. The next morning I tried to set boundaries with her, but she dismissed it and shook it off like I was being controlling. Most recently, we were at a friend's house with many other mutual friends watching a football game, and she got drunk again. Upon our team scoring in walk-off fashion, she lifted her shirt and flashed her breasts at the entire party while jumping up and down in celebration. She's not even a football fan and hardly understands who to cheer for. To me, it was like an excuse to just show off her breasts to everyone, without their consent, might I add. I was livid, and again we fought about it. She got defensive and turned it around on me, saying that for once in her life she's happy with how she looks, and she just wants to feel good about herself. I again tried expressing my boundaries, but she completely dismissed them. We have been short with each other for a week since that's happened. It may sound ridiculous, but if she can't respect my feelings and my boundaries, this could be grounds for divorce. I know that might sound dramatic, but I've expressed I'm not okay with it, and she dismisses me constantly. Am I the a-hole for insisting that my wife stop showing her breasts off? Wow, that is a highly uncomfortable thing to do, not just for your husband, but for everyone really. Like even for a boob enjoyer, having something unsolicited like that thrown in your face can really throw you off, and not always in a good way. I don't know, that's just me. What do you guys think about this one? Would you be okay with it? Would you be okay with seeing it, or would it make you uncomfortable? Let me know. Husband of 7 years admitted one-night stand while away for Thanksgiving. My husband, 39, and I, 35, have been married for 5 years and dated 2 years prior. We have never had trust issues or infidelity. We have had a great marriage, the kind of relationship we were really great friends. We have so much in common. We can sit and talk for hours. I was his best friend, and we even hung out during guys' nights, watching football with his friends. We had a great relationship. The cheating happened when he went home to New York for Thanksgiving, 3 days early. I arrived the day before Thanksgiving. This woman was visiting with his younger sister. They are in grad school together and they're really close friends. This woman couldn't make it home to California, so my in-laws hosted her too. Turns out they all went out for drinks. My sister-in-law left my husband and this woman alone at a friend's gathering. They were all drinking, having a good time. My husband told me they were alone talking all night. Then when they returned home to his parents, they drank more. They were up until 2 a.m. and they ended up having sex. My husband didn't make excuses, saying it was the beer. He said he was definitely wrong. He admitted that he was flattered that she was flirting with him. He admitted she was extremely attractive. He even left her alone to go to bed when he felt himself feeling attracted to her. She came to him, and they were in his bedroom. They drank and talked more on the balcony, and they ended up kissing, and well, they had sex. He told her he was going to tell me. He told his sister the next morning, and his sister told her she needed to leave. So when I arrived, my husband was acting really off. He was feeling guilty as hell, trying to hold his crap together and not ruin his family's Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving night, I asked him what the heck was going on with him. He was all over me sexually. He wanted lots of sex, and he was very aggressive during sex. I told him I needed a break, and he wouldn't stop. He finished inside me, which he doesn't do. I don't want to get pregnant. I thought this was so out of character for my husband. I asked him what the heck is going on with him. He started crying. He started apologizing. I thought it had to do with money. Never in a million years did I think he cheated on me. He confessed everything. I listened to my husband. I let him speak. I was upset. I felt sick and I cried, but I didn't get angry. I wasn't disrespectful in my in-laws' home. I had my sister-in-law drive me into the city, and I stayed at my friend's apartment while they were away. My sister-in-law told me about this woman, and she apologized profusely. I saw a photo of the woman. She is 27. She is absolutely beautiful. Not saying it makes anything okay, but wow, she's the kind of woman men would absolutely fight over. I told my husband he needed to leave when he returned home. He moved out that Sunday night. He's been driving me crazy, begging me to forgive him. He's been showing up at my work. He shows up at the house. I cannot make him leave because he owns the home too. I told him I think I may consider a divorce. I can't forgive this. I always felt I could work it out if our marriage went through something like this, but I can't. My parents divorced over infidelity. My dad was a serial cheater. My husband has taken steps to fix himself. He is getting help. He's just going crazy because I've just been numb and in shock, and I think it comes off as I don't care. I do care though, I do love him, but I cannot be in a mediocre marriage. I don't want our daughter, 3, to see her mum accept being cheated on. I am overwhelmed. I am overthinking everything. I don't want to make the wrong decision. I've been told I should keep our family together. He came clean and he's a good man. It happens once. I know that's a good point, but I feel off. Is it shock? Or did I lose respect and fall out of love? I don't know. Has anyone else felt this grey cloud after? Will it pass, and should I just wait a while longer before I make a choice that will turn my life and my daughter's life upside down? Thanks in advance. Wowee, let's look at the comments. So gross that he has sex with you right away. What a selfish, disrespectful coward. Did he go bareback with the other women also? He protects and prioritizes himself, and not you or your family. Please get tested. Who knows what he's capable of? Why did he tell his sister right away and not you? It's truly sick and sad his sister also didn't tell you before he put your health at risk. See a lawyer and learn your options. Download a child custody app so you can cut contact with him and start healing. Give your daughter the opportunity to see a happy and healthy relationship, not something toxic. If my partner could tell me that I was their everything before cheating and then cheated on me, I would especially never take them back. I wouldn't take back a cheater regardless, because if I was already their best friend, their all and everything, their upper echelon match, there's absolutely nothing more or different that I could do to keep them from cheating again. And if they didn't have an unwavering respect for me already with the label of their best friend, their all and everything, their upper echelon match, they will never respect me more or enough in the future to keep them from cheating again. And the way that he didn't respect your request for space shows that he cared more about himself than your needs and wants, just like when he pursued and slept with that woman. Then, the way that he violated you during sex and slept with you before telling you about his infidelity, especially without getting tested, tells you everything you need to know. And it's likely that he only told his sister because he figured her friend would, and he wanted to look like a good guy. But you see that he didn't even tell you and only told you because he figured his sister would. And it's likely that he's cheated on you before. I'm curious how his sister is handling this information right now. Is she still friends and in contact with that person? OP replied, My sister-in-law has cut all ties with this woman. She has called me and sent a text apologizing, and she's taking this hard. She feels she is to blame. I have made it clear that she is not to blame. She is in shock. She cannot believe her friend's behavior. She thought she was a good person, but now she is questioning everything about this woman. So, after he cheated on you, he assaulted you, and finished inside of you, knowing you don't want to get pregnant. He wanted you to get pregnant again because it would be harder to leave then. I'm so sorry, but this is not a man to stay with. OP replied, I just had this argument. I said the word assault, describing what I felt my husband did to me. My friend said she feels I should report it. Her husband said, good luck proving it. He said I would be laughed out of the room and the police station. Alrighty, on to an update. Thank you all for the words of encouragement. I've been sitting with this. I've gotten tested for STDs and I'm all good. I've been trapped in New York with my soon-to-be ex-husband. We agreed to spend Christmas with our daughter, and we ended up getting stuck here due to the storm. I told my husband I wanted a divorce, which made him lose his crap. He was stalking me, and he was acting out of character. I asked him to please just leave me alone. He was scaring me. He was upsetting our daughter, who sensed there was a problem. She is used to a fun, cozy home. Now there's tension. She cried when she told me to give Daddy a kiss and hug, and I refused. It is breaking my heart. I know it's hurting him. He's been a mess. I don't feel sorry for him. I feel for our daughter. She is sad to see her dad sad, and he keeps telling her I'm sorry. But he can't tell her why. Why he has to leave at night. Why we don't eat as a family. It's been insane, to say the least. I thought it would be good for her if we were a family for Christmas. Well, it's been 3 days and no flights or driving until at least the 30th. I don't have $2,000 a day for Hertz to rent a car. So we have an extended stay, and I, quote, stay in the bedroom with my daughter, and he stays on the roll-out sofa. I've been dealing with him, asking me why we can't get help for our marriage. I've gotten tears. I overheard him crying to his dad and mum at 2 a.m, saying he wants to kill himself for his mistake. I received a call from them the next morning, asking if I could ever forgive him. If I couldn't, they say they understand. I admit the thoughts of self-harm are concerning. I don't think he's doing it just to get me back. He's definitely spiraling. I was gentle with him last night. I agreed to talk, not for reconciliation. I just let him express his feelings and get crap off his chest, which led to me waking up at 4 a.m. this morning with him laying next to me in bed, him wide awake, staring at me. He said he needed to figure out what he needs to do for me to not leave him. He refuses to live without me. Maybe we have cabin fever. I'm starting to feel uneasy. People are insane. I'm not trying to die because he can't live without me. He already feels depressed, and I think losing his daughter will really take him over the top. Is this normal for the cheater to go down this path when the reality of what their cheating has caused them to lose? My husband is a smart man. He is usually controlled, not someone who is mentally unbalanced. I think the loss of his family may have really pushed him over the edge. Before all this, we were a happy family. Why he was so weak, I don't know. If it's just him being uninterested in me, then I can just step away and make sure he has more time with his daughter. They are extremely close. Hurting her has really destroyed him. His life was being a great dad for her. I thought he loved me. I don't know about that now, but I assume losing his family has mentally affected him. I've sent a text to my best friend of 20 years, keeping her updated. She says this is normal, but I also feel she may be a bit biased because her husband is my husband's best friend, and we have all been friends for a while. Our kids are close, and it's a breakup for them as well. I guess I'm looking for signs of someone losing it and doing something extreme. I've just been kind and respectful until I am able to leave. He has been love-bombing me and expecting a response. He sent the song I'll Be Over You by Toto and said I'm dying here. Please don't leave me. Maybe I'm losing my crap. I'm in such a difficult situation right now. Any advice? Is this normal behavior from the cheater? Yeah, what do you guys think? I'd say this is pretty normal, like panicking behavior, right? Let's look at some more comments. What does his family and sister-in-law say and feel about this situation? Is sister-in-law going to stay friends with this disgusting woman? Look at your husband's phone and see if her number is there. What were her plans? Just a one-night stand? She had to know she was destroying a family. I would want to know if they've talked since, and if not, do their stories line up? I'm so sorry you're going through this, and I read your original post, and it affected me for days, and now I just can't believe you and your daughter have to endure this. I just have so many questions, as I'm sure you do too. I wish you and your daughter much healing. Opie replies, his family is ticked. They are repulsed by him. They were hard on him, but he has softened their hearts because he's saying he doesn't want to go on. His sister has cut ties with her friend. This woman has tried to get my number from my sister-in-law. She's claiming she was drunk, and she's so sorry. Now, she was drunk and apparently she is a promiscuous woman when she drinks. My sister-in-law said she is the friend that you end up babysitting at the bar because she doesn't know when to stop drinking, and becomes ridiculous. I have not looked at his phone, not making excuses, but I doubt he has had contact with her. At this point, I'm so done. They can have each other if she's on his phone, and if they are talking, then maybe she can find him a place to stay. He's left the family home, and I will not lose my home in the divorce. My daughter has been hurt enough, and she's not leaving her friends and school. I do have a million questions, but I've not got to a place of grilling him. I just feel better staying away from him. And now for another update. Thank you all for all of the support. I am now home. My daughter is with my parents for a few days. I thought this would be better until my husband and I sort everything out. I'm happy I made this choice because crap hit the fan. My husband is not okay. He comes into the bedroom to pack clothes. He needed more suits for work. He says to me point blank, he cannot live without me. He said he was so sorry. He would move heaven and earth to repair our marriage. He said he refuses to let me go. He will not lose me without a fight. He summed it up by saying, "You know I don't lose." I'm sorry I effed the tramp and broke your heart and tore our family apart, but I can't imagine life without you. If I see you with another man, I don't know what I would do. I fantasize about it. It's driving me crazy." Those are his words. He has really changed. His eyes are dark, but they seem empty. He knows this isn't going to end well for him. I never knew my husband to be a violent man. He did have a temper in college, but I don't think he would intentionally go as far as hurting me. I mentioned this to someone, and they said, "He may accidentally hurt you, in a fit of rage." My husband works a lot, and he is an M&A lawyer, so he has a lot of work to catch up on. I know this will keep him occupied. I'm praying that will keep him away. I plan on filing for divorce this week. I don't want him to know. He left the house. He said he'll give me space. He apologized for hurting me, that he had the audacity to let him make love to me. His words. I said, "I don't have love anymore," and he lost it. He said, "So you don't love me anymore?" He began pacing the floor. He starts crying, saying, "I made a frickin' mistake. I need you to forgive me. I need you to talk to me." I asked him to please leave me alone. I told him I was not feeling well. I needed food. I made the excuse of needing to go buy groceries, so I made my escape by leaving for the grocery store. As I went to my car, he was right behind me. He blocked me in the garage, and he wouldn't let me go. He had me trapped between him and the car, with his arms around me. He wasn't hurting me, but he is 6'3" and I'm 5'5". I think this could all go left very quickly. I have to be careful with words because he's on the edge. If I say I'll call the cops, I have a feeling he'll lose his crap. We are gun owners, and that worries me. I pray his demanding job will keep him occupied, and maybe he'll cool down. All the work will distract his mind. We broke up back in November. He's only gotten worse since seeing him over Christmas. I just hope filing for divorce will not trigger him. Maybe I should wait. Yeah, seems like anything could set this guy off. He sounds unhinged now. Let's go to the final update. Thank you for being so concerned for me. I've spoken with the police and they know what is happening. I've decided to file, but to hold off on serving him. He is going to IC and he is currently slammed with work, which is excellent. He has been stopping to see our daughter, tucking her in after her bath. He doesn't even have time for dinner. He is very busy and I think work is clearing his mind. He loves his job and I'm praying he will come to his senses. Okie dokie, and that's the final update. Well, considering there's no more updates, I'm assuming nothing drastic happened, which, is great news. And yeah, sounds like his job came to the rescue with all that work. Anyway, a horrible situation, but it sounds like it's all resolved now. Give me your thoughts about that one down below, and we'll move to our next story. Okay, this next one's from the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's wife to drop dead in front of her friends and family?" My mum died a little over a year ago. I was living with her full-time before she passed. She left me a lot of money and her house. Since the house was just going to stay empty until I was done with college, my aunt on my mum's side and I talked about it, and we agreed she would stay there since she's taking care of my grandma and her place was small. I will move back in once I've finished my schooling. My dad assumed my mum left me her money and left the house to my aunt. I didn't correct him because I don't trust my dad or have a great relationship with him. I'm currently living with him, his wife Jan, and their twin daughters, 17, both lovely people, in a 3-bedroom flat. 2 months ago he found out that my mum left me the house. I'm not sure how he found out, but he did. Since then I haven't heard of the end of it. I'm selfish for making us stay in a tiny flat. I'm spoiled because I won't share my inheritance. I'm a terrible person for making the twins take out loans. You get the gist. This weekend was the twins' birthday at my grandma's house. Most of my dad's family were there. We get along great usually. His wife's family, and some of both of their friends there, along with the twins' friends. After they were done opening my present to them, they asked me if that was really it. I got the matching bracelets with their birthstones, which they both loved, by the way. It got quiet, and I asked them what else they were expecting. They said Jan said that I was planning on surprising them on their birthday by telling them we were moving into my mum's house and helping them with college. My grandma asked Jan if this was true, and Jan started in on me again. She asked what she could do to make me stop being a bee, pull my weight, help out, and be fair. I told her she could drop dead. that my mum died for me to get all these things she wanted me to give her daughters. I said if she wanted everything to be fair, then she should drop dead, and I would share everything I had with her daughters since we would all have lost a mother then. That it would be fair only after that happened. She and my dad started yelling at me, and my grandma and uncle started yelling at my dad and Jan, and everything was pretty much over after that. The whole ride home, my dad and Jan were getting calls and texts from family and friends, telling them that they were disappointed in them, and I was getting texts from Jan's family, the twins' friends, and a few of my own cousins saying I was selfish. I don't usually fight with my cousins, so I'm really starting to think maybe I'm being selfish and that I went too far at the twins' party. Am I the a-hole? I mean, saying drop dead's pretty drastic, but I think she's still not the a-hole here. What do you guys reckon? Alright, let's see what the comments think. A rare time when you can tell someone to drop dead and still be not the a-hole. Can you move in with your aunt? Not the a-hole. At 17, I wouldn't have had the verbal creativity or emotional fortitude to so expertly advocate for myself. You are, in fact, a hero for ensuring your aunt has housing security as she cares for your aging grandmother, for standing up for yourself in the face of the emotional immaturity of the adults around you, and for investing in yourself. Carry on, Queen. Not the a-hole. They don't own you, and this bullcrap where Jan made up a story about what you were going to do and then surprised you with it, incredible. I hope you get out as soon as you can. Yeah, hard to argue with those ones. Let's go to the update. Thank you guys so much for the support. When everyone who usually backs you up says you're an a-hole, it's hard to believe you're not. But as some of you guessed, my cousins heard the word inheritance and got greedy, and that's why they sided with them. I was getting texts asking for money from them these past few days. I'm moving in with my grandma on my dad's side. She picked me up this morning and would be moving my stuff instead of going to school today. The twins talked to their friends and they have texted their apologies. Although I'm not going to pay for their whole college experience, I think I'm going to help them buy books and with on-campus living. They've really had my back on this, and that's amazing. I'm going no contact with my dad. He chose her over me, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. My husband deserted me without a word. I'm still reeling from this and just need to vent. My 45 female, husband, 50 male, and I have been homeless for about a year after he was fired from his job, but staying in motels. I do work online and have been able to keep a roof over our heads. He hasn't worked in a year, so on Tuesday, when he said he had a job interview, I was excited. He walked since the truck broke down and was sold. He said he needed both phones for numbers, so I gave it to him, not thinking anything about it, especially since I could still get in touch with him with text now. After about an hour, he texted me and said he got the job and just had to fill out paperwork and get his drug test and would only be a couple of hours. Then I saw 3 expenses on the bank card in the county over and knew something wasn't right. Those couple of hours turned into that night, the next morning. He not only wasn't answering my texts or calls, but he blocked me completely. He had both phones, both bank account cards, and my valid ID. Before I had a chance to cancel the cards because there was my money on there, he had pretty much wiped out the account. I still had a few days left at the motel, so called around. My dog, cat and I are safe at the moment, and I opened new bank accounts but have to wait on the cards to arrive. But we can't stay here forever. I'm hoping the card arrives soon and I can get my ID done so we can get back into a motel, which is the only option at the moment until I can build up enough money for a rent deposit, etc., and find a cheap apartment or house. I do have a paycheck coming Thursday, though I'm not sure what to do after Monday when I can no longer stay where I am. As far as I know, my husband is with another woman. He contacted his brother just long enough to say he was safe, but wouldn't give an answer why. We've been married for 9 years, but started dating back in 1988. We weren't arguing and I thought everything was fine. Not a word, and I'm just devastated. I just can't fathom why he just left me and our pets like that, with no access to money, and tried to clean it completely out, a vehicle or even a live phone. He knew that most likely we would be out on the street, but luckily we did find a temporary haven for a few days. I guess he just found a peace he wanted more than someone who supported him and was loyal through these bad times. I figured he'd found another woman with more money, or something who could take care of him like I did. Anyway, thank you for letting me vent. Oh gee, what a horrible situation. Let's look at the comments. Your future ex is a first-class turd and a thief. I'm sorry this happened to you, OP. I know how hard it is to start over. Do you have some family or friends to help you? OP replies, Not really. All of my family are deceased, and the one person I could call is helping me right now, but can't stay for more than a couple of days. We've had to move so many times because he couldn't keep a job or wanted to try someplace new. I think I became really isolated from everyone. I thought another friend was going to help, but they said they thought about it and didn't want any drama at their house if he decided to show up, which I can't blame them. It's pretty much just me, the dog, and the cat. Many people tell OP that he doesn't deserve her and that he's a POS. OP says, Thank you. I've been thinking a lot the past few days and have started to think and realize he was using me to support him. I lost one writing job last month and he just started another one this month. I guess he didn't think I'd be able to support him. He left before he knew that I'm actually going to be making more money than before. I just have to wait until the first pay on Thursday. Someone says, Check your accounts to make sure he can't access. OP says, I cancelled the cards and showed up for a new account in just my name and changed my direct deposit. If he thinks he's going to get any more of my money after what he did, he's delusional. Another commenter asks, Does he have a drug problem? Also, hotels can get expensive. OP replies, No, he doesn't have a drug problem, but his new Facebook profile he made yesterday just came across my recommendations. I'm leaving it for now so he doesn't block me before I can contact a lawyer. I do see where he is and who he's with, and now it's starting to at least make some sense. And yeah, they are super expensive. I was trying to save up, but that got wiped. With just me and without someone who likes to spend whatever money he gets right away, I should be able to save up in no time. Edit to add, he loves people when they can give him things, but as soon as they question him or can't be of use, he disposes of them. I thought I was immune to that. I guess not. A heavily downvoted commenter asks how she possibly could have no savings after being together for 35 years. She says, I have a job, he didn't. I've had the same job for 14 years, and I've taken care of us waiting for him to find another job. We had savings, but when he got fired, we went through a lot of it pretty quick. I don't need to stay at a shelter. After I get my paycheck Thursday to recoup some of what he cleaned out, I'll be fine, and my pets will be fine. It's just getting through the next few days. Then I'll be better than ever. Okay, on to the update. First of all, I would like to thank you for everyone's kind words of encouragement and advice. I'm sorry I wasn't able to respond to everyone. Myself and my pets are still safe. My new bank cards should be coming in today or tomorrow. With my paycheck on Thursday, I get to move into a studio apartment I found. It's small, but bigger than a motel room and has a kitchen. They allow pets and even have a little fenced-in dog play area. I'm still working to beef up my paycheck for the deposits and food. After I get settled in, I do have an appointment with legal aid counselling for the area. So things are definitely looking up, and I really feel like I've got this and can take care of myself. Where I work has announced that there will be a huge increase in work available and should continue through the next year. And if he even tries to contact me, I'm not buying anything he says, especially if he tries to weasel his way back in. He could talk to my lawyer. Alright, now for a couple more comments. Be free of that dead weight. OP says, Thank you, I've lost 10 pounds in the last week, but I feel like I'm even lighter with the additional 220 pounds I lost, lol. Still no word from him? Nope, not a word, and it's been a week. At this point, I don't even want to hear from him. Knowing him, he may try to contact me within a few weeks and say he deserves to explain himself. You know, after his side piece or whoever he's with finds out who he really is, and I'll tell him I and the cat and the dog deserve to not be put in the situation he put me in, but what you gonna do? He deserves nothing. Someone says, make sure he can't find you. OP says, yeah. Someone suggested maybe getting a PO box. I'll ask the lawyer about it when I speak to them next week. Hopefully his family is not supporting his bad behaviour. The family members I've spoken to have completely cut him off. They said that they'd hoped he would grow up, but they find this situation disgusting and they won't give him any help if he comes asking. Can you go to the police and charge him with theft of the money in your account? Opie replies, unfortunately, it was a joint account. I did contact the police, but they said since his name is on the account, it is a civil matter. So it's something I'll have to talk about when I speak with the lawyer. I'll have all documentation showing that the only deposits were coming from my paycheck, so hopefully I'll be able to get at least half back. I have direct deposit information for the accounts showing where the money came from and screenshots of his last transactions. Okay, on to another update. I just wanted to give another and hopefully final update. I still haven't heard from him, but I don't want to, and the lawyer I speak with on Thursday can take over tracking him down. I and the furballs are in our new apartment, safe and sound. It took a lot of hard work and every penny I had from my paycheck, but we made it. I still need to get furniture, but we have a roof, and that's a great start. We're going to be alright, I know it, and even though I need time to know and love myself again and heal, it was kind of a confidence boost to be flirted with by a couple of the neighbours, lol. Thank you for all your support, love and kindness through these past couple of weeks. One commenter asked how she feels now. Thank you, I have noticed that I'm starting to feel happier than I have for a while, now that the drama has died down. I am enjoying the peace. It was hard to push through, but since I didn't have to worry about him, everything seemed to fall into place. All this time I thought it was my fault for not making enough to get us into a place. Found out it wasn't. Someone says, make sure you file for legal separation. Opie says, I meet with the lawyer on Thursday, so we'll probably cover that then. The first step was to get into a stable place. The next step is to see what all I need to do legally. Okay, now for the final update. I thought that the last post would be my last update, but I know many people were concerned about me seeing a lawyer, which I did today. The retainer won't be too bad, but it will need to wait until next week for payday. But it's the beginning of the next step. And I did hear from him. I received a short email, which was the only way he knew how to get in touch, which just said, sorry, how are you? It took a lot out of me not to respond, because there is still a lot of hurt and grief I'm processing, but I'm proud to say that I just sent a message back with the number of the law office I was going to, then created a filter to send future messages to the trash. It hurt, but it felt good at the same time. I truly want to say thank you for all your kindness and support during this time. I've had several people reach out and message me to share similar experiences, and it breaks my heart to know that this has happened to so many other women and men. Okie dokie, and that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. Yeah, it looks like Opie's in a better spot now, and good to hear she held off on replying to him as well. Okay, let's go to the next story. Okay, this one was posted on the Am I the A-Hole subreddit. It's written by user Shot Independent, and it's titled, Am I the A-Hole for calling my former bully beyond repulsive and dumb as crap after he kept bothering me in the gym? Throwaway, and this happened recently, so bear with me. I, female 18, started university this year. My school is located outside my home province, so I wasn't expecting to see too many people from high school here. However, I did see this one guy from high school, Thomas, male 18, here. To say Thomas and I had a difficult past is a bit of an understatement. He tormented my friends, especially me, during our preteen years, and for the first 2 years of high school. He would always call me the most hurtful things and was your typical bully. I don't know why he hated me, though I think he probably thought I was an easy target. He stopped picking on us around grade 11, and I thought that was it. Apparently, according to some of my friends, he turned over a new leaf around that time. Fast forward, and I see him during orientation week. He approached me and said hi. I returned his greeting, and we made some small talk, but I tried to keep things relatively short. During this chat, I learned that, surprise surprise, we're in the same program, and even in the same residence building. He seemed happy with this, as in his words, it was nice to see a familiar face. Over the next few weeks, we've been chatting pretty regularly, given that we do have pretty similar schedules. I've been trying to give short, polite answers, but whenever we talk, he just doesn't shut up. I sometimes suspect that he actively seeks me out for a chat. Earlier today, when I was at the campus gym, I saw Thomas. I tried to avoid his general area in the gym and kept my AirPods in my ears, hoping that he would not notice me. About halfway through my set, I heard him call out to me. We talked for a bit. I was annoyed at this stage as he did interrupt my workout, and then he starts asking me if I need help with any of the equipment or anything like that, and that he could personally train me. I declined his offer, and then he bluntly asked me out. I didn't think I heard him properly, so I asked him to repeat what he said. He then said he wanted to take me out for lunch or something like that. I said something along the lines of now wouldn't be a good time, but he persisted and said that it could be fun. At this stage, I snapped. I told him that I thought he was beyond repulsive and dumb as crap if he thought I'd go out with him. He looked very shocked at this, and before anything else could be said, I grabbed my bag and left. Later, I told my roommate about this, and she said that I was sort of an a-hole, but that she could understand where I was coming from. Am I the a-hole? That kind of reminds me of school, where people would kind of tease the people that they like. So maybe that's what this guy tried to do to OP and kind of just took it way too far, obviously. Wasn't very good at it. Let's look at the comments. Has he ever apologized for what he did to you? Or has the topic of why he ever treated you like that? No a-holes here. He tormented you for years, so of course you want nothing to do with him, but it does seem like he's trying to make a genuine effort not to be the person he used to be. He still has to know there are consequences to his actions. OP replies, he kind of apologized back in grade 11. He's made no reference to our past aside from, it's nice to see someone familiar, for the past few weeks. Not the a-hole. He made your life hell, bullied you. You're going to have a lot of anger towards him built up inside. Yeah, you snapped at him, but I'd do the same if someone had made my life such a hell in school. Yes, he may have changed now, but from what you've said, he's never actually apologized for any of it. Not the a-hole. Unless he got brain damage between grade 11 and now, he has to remember how he treated you. Hopefully, he now knows that you remember, even if he pretends not to. Okay, on to the update. Before I go on with the update, I'd like to thank everyone who responded to my first post. I appreciate it. Given that we are in the same res and share several classes and a 3-hour Monday lab, I've been catching some glimpses of Thomas from time to time throughout the week. I saw him a lot on Monday given our lab, but we didn't speak. Throughout the rest of the week, I didn't see him too much and was starting to think things would end there. That was until Thursday night. I was hanging out in the dining area of the res, catching up on some readings. It was around 9 p.m, so the area was largely empty. About 15 minutes into my readings, I saw Thomas and who I'm assuming is his roommate walking around. I think they were just grabbing some food or something. I continued doing my readings, and then I just saw him, I guess his roommate left by this stage, standing pretty close by. When I looked at him, he asked if he could speak with me. I said fine. The only reason I think I did bother listening to him was because I felt faintly bad for lashing out the previous weekend. He told me that he was very sorry for bothering me in the gym when I appeared busy, and he should have known that I'd still have reservations about talking with him, given how he treated me in the past. He went on for a good few minutes about how terrible he was, and how much grace I had for even speaking with him for the past few weeks. Then he started saying things like how there were no excuses for his behaviour, and so on. I asked him that if he thought there were no excuses, then why did he pick on me? Since I was a pretty quiet kid, I said that he probably thought I was an easy target. He denied this and just became quiet around this stage. I asked again, and then he said that he did it because he liked me for a very long time, were his exact words. He also said he wanted me to go out with him last weekend, so that he could apologize more formally, because he respected me. I will admit I felt really annoyed at this stage, so I told him his apparent feelings were a cop-out, and that he probably thought it would make me forgive him. I told him that him telling me this made my stomach churn. He looked a little surprised at this and didn't say anything. I then told him that if he had any of this so-called respect for me, he'd keep his distance. He agreed and said that he was sorry for bothering me again. Friday passed by pretty smoothly, and I don't remember seeing him at all, so hopefully he got the message. Alrighty, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, Opie was pretty upfront about her feelings, so you can't really blame her for that. But yeah, it's hard not to see that the guy's actually making an effort to change, so good for him, I guess. Anyway, let's go to our next story. Okay, we're going to do a quick one from the same subreddit. This one was written by user Flat Blueberry, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for abandoning my daughter on vacation? My wife and I have always dreamed of celebrating our 40th anniversary with a luxurious vacation, just the two of us, reliving the romance of our early years. We had it all planned out for years now, and were excited beyond words. Enter our adult daughter Jane. Jane and her husband got wind of our plans and promptly invited themselves and their 2 children, 9 female, 5 male, along. I originally put my foot down and told them this trip was just for us, which upset her some. But my wife has a hard time saying no to Jane, as she is the youngest of our children and our only daughter, and she didn't want to hurt her feelings, so she reluctantly agreed to let them join. I wasn't thrilled about it at the time, but I wanted to make my family happy, and I knew my wife was also okay with the idea of a family trip, even if she was heartbroken we wouldn't get our romantic trip. We went along with it. The place we were originally going was not child-friendly, so we changed course and decided on an all-inclusive, family-friendly resort. We paid for the resort and our grandchildren's plane tickets. Jane and her husband only had to pay for their own airfare. Here's where things get complicated. As the vacation got closer, I started having a change of heart. I realized that our 40th anniversary was a once-in-a-lifetime milestone, and I wanted to honor it in a way that was true to our original plans. My wife and I might not be able to afford a trip like this again for quite some time, and it's something we always wanted to do. So, without consulting anyone, I switched our tickets last minute to go to the romantic destination that my wife and I had originally planned for. I did not tell Jane or her husband. I didn't even tell my wife until the day before our flight left, which was a day before Jane's flight left for their vacation. It wasn't an easy decision, and I feel guilty about it, but I wanted our 40th anniversary to be the special, intimate celebration we had always hoped for. We called Jane after we landed to tell her, and she was extremely upset to say the least. She seemed to be of the idea that we were going to look after our grandkids so she and her husband could have alone time, and now that I abandoned her, they would have to do it all themselves. I hung up on them when my son-in-law started shouting, and my wife and I enjoyed the rest of our trip. They came back the same day we did, but have not answered any of our texts, and Jane seems to be ignoring me. My wife told me she vastly preferred our trip to the family trip we would have taken, but she still doesn't like how Jane is mad at us and wants me to apologize. I'm not sure I want to after learning Jane and her husband were using us for free babysitting and a free trip, but I feel like I should just keep the peace. Am I the jerk for changing our trip destination last minute and leaving Jane and her family to fend for themselves? Wow, I have many thoughts about this. This one comment sums it up perfectly. Not the a-hole. What part of the 40th anniversary trip did your daughter and son-in-law not understand? Oh, boo frickin' who. They want to spend time alone and designated the grandparents to babysit on what should have been their special trip. If your daughter and son-in-law wanted alone time on a trip, they could have gone on a different trip and politely asked you and your wife to watch the kids while they were away, not try and hijack your trip. Do not feel guilty, OP, not even for a second. You and your wife have done the parenting of your kids, and now it's time to start enjoying life as a couple again. Sure, you're parents and grandparents, but you're still a couple and deserve to enjoy falling in love with each other all over again with romantic trips that do not include your offspring or grandkids. Your daughter needs a swift kick of reality right in the tuchus. She had the audacity to invite her family to your romantic weekend with the express purpose of securing babysitters so she could enjoy herself without any thought for her parents. The entitlement is mind-boggling. Yeah, I'm just going to leave you with that one. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Am I the a-hole for telling my uncle to stop gifting my daughter extravagant trips? So, a little backstory. When my sisters and I were kids, every year for our birthdays and Christmas, my uncle would give us cards. Inside those cards would be a printed out picture of some place, i.e. local theme parks, the zoo, aquarium, museums, any place a kid would love to go. After we opened them, he would tell us that we're going to that place. He would say things like, "It's going to be the best trip of your life." That would obviously make us very excited. Here's the thing, we never went on any of those trips. We never went to any of those places. As a young kid, it would be disappointing, but after a while I started expecting it and just going along with it. I don't hold any animosity towards him at all, obviously. As an adult now, I understand he did that because he didn't have the means to buy us gifts. Here's where I'm starting to have a little bit of an issue with it. My daughter's 5th birthday was last week. My uncle gave her a card. She opened it to find a printed out picture of a theme park about 2 hours away from our house, and he promised her a fun weekend away. He promised her things like a giant hotel room with a swimming pool, all the snacks she could ever want, and tickets to every show she wants to see at the park. She was over the moon. For the past week, my daughter has talked non-stop about this trip. She keeps telling me how excited she is and how excited her whole class at school is for her. It breaks my heart looking at that smile on her face, knowing it's not going to happen. I remember how disappointing it was for me, and I don't want her to go through that. So I texted my uncle. Here's what the message said. "Hi, your message in my daughter's card was so beautiful. Do you think next time you could leave out the promise of an extravagant trip? The thought and gesture is amazing, however I never know what to say when she asks me when this trip will be. She absolutely loves spending time with you, so I know the promise of even a nice lunch together would make her so happy." He never responded, but my aunt told me he was upset. She said something like he was offended that I implied the only thing he could afford was a nice lunch. I didn't mean it like that at all. I just wanted him to understand that she loves him and wants to spend time with him, and he doesn't need to promise impossible things to make that happen. But I can see why he interpreted it the way he did, and that's where I'm wondering if I'm the jerk. This has been an unspoken thing in my family for so many years, so I'm now wondering if I should have just kept it that way. I just can't stand the thought of my little girl getting disappointed so many times. My sisters and my mum agree with me. My mum even said she wished she stopped it when we were kids. So, am I the a-hole for telling my uncle to stop gifting my daughter extravagant trips? Let's look at the comments. Not the a-hole. It is an incredibly cruel thing to lie to a young child like that. There is zero need for it. Not the a-hole. But why are you being sensitive to his feelings when he wasn't sensitive to yours when you were a child? Tell him that his actions caused you repeated disappointment when he didn't follow through on his promises, and that you don't want your child to experience the same. IOUs are not presents. As you say, a lunch or an activity on the day would be lovely, but other than that, stick to an actual gift or give nothing at all. Not the a-hole. Stop being nice because he's not being nice. He knowingly is getting a child's hope up and then crushing it. There isn't one nice thing about what he's doing. Tell him he's no longer allowed to give gifts because he's a known liar, and that all attempts will be intercepted by you. Yeah, as far as a tiered list of gift giving, it's definitely down the bottom. Like, why would you think of that as a good way to give a gift and then stick to it for years and years? Yeah, seems unnecessary. Let's go to the update. Thanks to everyone for your feedback on my last post. A lot of people asked me why I was being so nice to my uncle, and honestly, I think I underestimated how weird it was because it's been so normalized in our family. I didn't want to cause drama, so I went about it as non-confrontational as possible. I agree now I should have been more direct. Another concern a lot of you had was that I allowed this to happen to my daughter previously. That is not true. This is the first time he promised her one of his trips. That's why I decided to say something, so this doesn't become a recurring thing. Here's the update. I tried to call my uncle twice, but he didn't answer. I got through to my aunt and explained everything to her, how many times he did this to my siblings, and how often we were disappointed. I told her my daughter was so excited, and that if they were actually planning to take her on this trip, I would apologize. She didn't take that well. She told me I was creating unnecessary drama, and that my daughter and I are acting entitled to expect them to drop everything to go on this trip. I was shocked and angry. I said, "How dare you say that? She didn't imagine this trip in her mind and then expect you to take her. You promised her this trip. Her disappointment is not entitlement." I said it's not my job to make sure a grown man feels secure in himself, and it's a shame my family spent so long coddling him. I was so mad I just hung up. I don't feel any ounce of guilt for setting my boundary anymore. For everyone asking if I can take my daughter on the trip, unfortunately that theme park closes for the season this month. But I surprised her with something even better. After the phone call with my aunt, my partner and I decided to book a trip to Disneyland. It sounds crazy and impulsive, but we've been wanting to plan this for a while now and decided it's the perfect time. My kid is entitled to an extravagant trip. Last night we sat her down and explained that her uncle won't be able to take her on the trip. I tried to be as honest as possible without confusing her. She was unsurprisingly upset and had a lot of questions. After we answered them all, I told her not to worry because her mum and dad are taking her somewhere instead. When she found out it was Disney, she was over the moon. She spent all day deciding which Minnie Mouse stuffy she wants to take with her. I told her to tell her class her trip got upgraded. All things considered, it's a happy ending. I know I won't always be able to protect her from disappointment, but I sure as heck will do my best. She's getting that giant hotel room she was promised. Oh great, all's well that ends well, I think. But yeah, the audacity of his uncle and his wife to say that. Jeez. But yeah, glad to hear the kid's happy now. Alright, on to the next story. Okay, this is from the same subreddit. It was written by user Fuzzy End, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my husband when I left the bar? This is my first Reddit post, as I usually just look around without commenting, but this happened this weekend and I need outside options. I, 34 female, have been married to my husband, 35, for almost a year now, and we dated for 3 years before. Ever since we started dating, whenever we go out without the other, we both let each other know where we are and when we arrive and leave as a safety thing. Example, hey, I arrived to X bar, everything fine? Or, hey, I'm leaving the bar on an Uber, should be home in 10 minutes. Now this weekend I went out with my friend, Amy. We went to a restaurant and to dance. Around 2 AM we decided to go home, and because we live in opposite directions, we each took a different Uber. As usual, I texted my husband to let him know I was going home, and he told me that he was also leaving his friend's house and we should arrive at the same time. I knew that he was out with some of his friends, that included Amy's fiancé, and we all know each other for a long time. But I wasn't really thinking about that, just following my routine. We both got home. I texted Amy to let her know I was home safe and went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, I had tons of messages and a few missed calls from Amy. My husband had also had some messages and calls from Amy's fiancé. In her text, she was asking me what I had told her fiancé, what had my husband told to the fiancé, how dare we meddle in their relationship, etc. The texts on my husband's phone were just asking if I'd arrived home and if I had any idea where Amy was. I called Amy and again she asked what I had told her fiancé. I told her I haven't spoken with him, and she called me a jerk and a liar because if I didn't speak to him, how did he know I'd left at 2 AM? I explained to her that I had texted my husband as I always do. She said I'm a jerk for not telling her that I was doing that, and that my husband is a controlling jerk for making me text him and for telling her fiancé that she was also leaving. Then she hung up and haven't picked up again. My husband said that he'd only told his friends that he was leaving because he wanted to arrive at home at the same time as me, and that if my friend did something, I don't know what, that's on her, not me. The thing is, this has reached my other friends and some are saying that I should text my husband when I arrive home, not when I leave the club, and that I'm a jerk for not telling Amy what I was texting my husband. Some agree with my husband and say this is on Amy for lying. She said we both stayed dancing even later, and not on me for texting my husband. Honestly, I don't know what to think, as I feel like maybe I should just text my husband when arriving home instead, to avoid compromising others, or to avoid creating an imaginary curfew for my friends. So Reddit, am I the jerk? Oh, obviously not the a-hole, but like, what is Amy up to? Sounds like she didn't arrive home when she was expected. Let's see what the comments say. Not the a-hole. I'm confused on why you think you should have texted when you got home. Everything would have turned out the exact way. Your husband gets the message, says my wife is home, I'm going to leave, and Amy's partner finds out she's cheating. Texting later changes nothing. Not the a-hole. You don't have to explain what or why you text someone, especially not your husband. If she wanted to get up to no good, that's on her. Don't let her scapegoat you with your friends. Not the a-hole. What did Amy do after you left? You just told your husband you were leaving. It's not your fault that they're fighting now. Yeah, onto an update. Hello Reddit. I'm the OP of the last story and it's been quite a week. After seeing all the answers, I decided to make the first and only update about this. I haven't heard Amy's version of what happened during that hour and a half she was missing, but her fiancé told my husband that everything is fine and that the reason she was late was because she decided to walk home while smoking and didn't want him to know and be disappointed she's smoking again. As of the wedding, so far that's still happening, but I'm no longer part of the bridal party, as Amy considers I'm no longer part of her trust circle. I'm still invited to the wedding, but as my husband's +1 because he's part of the groomsmen. I'm glad I'm not a bridesmaid anymore, and I'm not sure if I'll be comfortable going to the wedding, because Amy and most of her bridesmaids act as if I was trash talking her to her fiancé when I haven't even spoken to him. P.S. I wanted to thank all of those who supported me. I was really worried I'd done something bad, but seeing so many people say that they had the same with their significant other or family, I feel so much better. One commenter says, I'm sorry to break it to you, OP, but the reality is, she's still ticked because she had something major to hide, and smoking isn't it. You know it, all of Reddit knows it, and I'm sure deep down her future husband knows it, but he's too deep in denial. Just as long as your husband doesn't start defending her, I'd just sit back and wait for the inevitable implosion of their marriage. OP replies, I personally think it's not my place to assume what Amy did or didn't do in her spare time. I keep my side of the street clean, and it's up to her to keep hers. And as for my husband, he's not particularly close to Amy, he just wants to be able to support her friend when he needs it. Okay, and OP lied because there is another update, and let's go to it. Well, Reddit, here's the long-awaited update. In short, the wedding was called off. All this I've heard from my husband, from a few friends I still had in common with Amy, and from Amy's sister, who is very angry at Amy. Turns out that, as many had assumed, Amy wasn't being faithful. This past weekend she went dancing with some friends and didn't come home until 5 a.m. Of course, she told her ex-fiancé that she'd been with her friends all the time, and that's why she didn't answer her phone. Only for him to tell her that because she wasn't home and wasn't picking up the phone, around 2:30 a.m. he called one of her friends to ask to speak to Amy, and lo and behold, the friend had no idea where Amy was, because they'd went dancing all right, but Amy cancelled them and didn't go. So she insisted she was dancing but with her sister and her sister's friend, and she went to bed. She called Amy's sister to ask her at what time Amy had left the club to come home, because he remembered the time Amy went dancing with me, and the sister said she hadn't seen Amy either. So he finally confronted Amy, and after more excuses, she admitted she was with a work friend. At first, she said it was just a friend that she didn't mention because it's a guy, and her fiancé would be jealous, but after more fighting and circle talk, she told him it was just a bit of pre-wedding fun, nothing serious, and that it wasn't cheating because they didn't have sex, and it was only flirting and hanging out, alone in his apartment. So he called the wedding off, because he doesn't approve of this kind of pre-wedding fun. He is staying with some friends, and she's calling everyone she can think of to ask us to talk to him to get the wedding back on. Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Amy is not a good person. Anyway, that's the end of that story. Give me your thoughts down below. Yeah, I don't think anyone here is surprised about that outcome. Anyway, let's go to our next story. Okie dokie, same subreddit again. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for ruining my sister-in-law's honeymoon by exposing her racism? Throwaway account, although my sister-in-law will probably recognise the story anyway, so I don't know why I even bother. I don't think what I did was an a-hole move at all, but maybe the timing was a bit off. But no, I don't think I'm an a-hole full stop. My, female 27, sister-in-law, female 30, got married last weekend. She's my long-term boyfriend's, 32, sister. They're white and I'm Middle Eastern, and a dark one with raven black hair. She was looking for a photographer that didn't bankrupt her, so I suggested a friend of mine who's new in business and charged less than half, because these things cost over 5k these days. She was excited, and I set a group chat with her and my photographer friend. We talked a little, and later they met and they started messaging directly to each other. The wedding was amazing and everything went smoothly. I was one of the guests and she seemed happy. The next day they went off to their honeymoon. I don't know if it was by mistake, but instead of texting the photographer directly like she's done for the past few months, she texted him to our old iMessage chat. She thanked him but had a favour to ask him and wondered whether he could retouch some asymmetry in the flowers archway. I'm sorry, I don't know the right terms in English. But also if he could take me off some photos because I'm too dark and ruined the colour palette. Not all pictures, just the ones she's in. I texted back, "Are you kidding me?" She didn't answer. I took a screenshot and posted it on my Insta story, tagging her in it. She called my boyfriend crying her eyes out, calling me an a-hole for embarrassing her and ruining her honeymoon. Boyfriend thought it was a low blow. I was blinded with rage when I did it, but even now I'm calm. I still don't feel like I was an a-hole. But people have been contacting her, apparently asking if she really wrote this. She's so beautiful and successful, so please don't blame it on jealousy or scare of being outshined. Whoa, called out. Nah, what a dumb excuse. Colour palette? Yeah, give me a break. Let's go to the comments. It is always appropriate to embarrass a racist. Always. And while you're not likely to cure your sister-in-law, perhaps she will think twice before communicating such ugly thoughts in the future. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Racists deserve to be called out publicly whenever possible. I wonder if it was really accidental that she sent the message to the whole group. Your boyfriend is an a-hole for not standing by you and chastising his sister himself. I'm so sorry this happened to you, but sadly, I'm not surprised. At first I felt everyone sucks here, but F that, not the a-hole. White people want to be racist behind closed doors, but the moment they get called out, they gaslight you into thinking they're the victim instead of taking responsibility. If this is someone you care about and have a good relationship with, my recommendation would have been to talk to her about it. While what she said was racist, she likely doesn't understand why, but at the end of the day, it's not really your job. Alrighty, onto an update. 1. Sister-in-law is still on her honeymoon, so I haven't talked to her yet, but she's bombarding my boyfriend demanding that I apologise and make a new Insta story with my apology. More people got involved, including my boyfriend's mother, that thought I was way out of line ruining her daughter's wedding. I've also gotten contacted by my sister-in-law's friends. Some of them told me stories about what she's been saying about me behind my back. Yeah, she got what she deserved. The amount of her friends that weren't surprised at all with her text made it clear for me that I wasn't wrong. My sister-in-law is self-employed with some foreign customers. That's why she's taking it so hard, because she's scared that would affect her career. I don't feel like I need to save her career should something bad happen to it. 2. My photographer friend did what he was told. That's the only right way in my opinion. Being professional and not confuse work with his own values. He asked me if I wanted him to say something, and I said no. I also asked him not to tell me what they were texting since she's his client, so he shouldn't break confidentiality. He's just starting his career and he will meet worse brides. She was at least nice to him throughout their interaction. 3. Now to my boyfriend. As I said, he thought this whole thing was uncomfortable. I told him if he wanted to be with me, he needed to discuss uncomfortable topics. He opened up and it was actually deeper than this. This has happened before. His uncle is very rich and for his 60th birthday, he had a very big party. As a thank you, we received thank you cards with our pictures on it, professionally taken. I remember this picture because his uncle had a red carpet moment when guests were photographed upon their arrival. Later, we went to my boyfriend's mother to see the rest of the photos, and I wasn't in any of them. I thought it was funny how I literally evaded being caught on camera. I never mentioned this or even reflected on it, and while my boyfriend and his family were looking at the pictures and discussing the evening, it was just so normal and no one mentioned something out of the ordinary. Today he told me that I was photoshopped off the pictures. Everyone in the family knew it, but me. At the time, they just thought the uncle could choose whoever he wanted to have in his pictures, and they moved on. Conversation with the boyfriend. But you all kept it from me. Yes. So you must have thought it was hurtful. I did. I asked my family not to tell you. And we continued going to that uncle, celebrated some Christmases, Easters and vacations with him? Silence. You didn't feel offended on my behalf? Silence. And now you think it's okay that your sister is doing the same? I didn't think of it that way. I know my sister. She's not a racist. If it wasn't racist, why is she feeling embarrassed now? Silence. You think what she did was all right? Of course not. Will you just stand and watch when this happens to our children? Of course not. I know my boyfriend very well. He's very kind and I never felt he was racist in any way. I know he's not stupid and is aware of these things, which makes it worse because it just means he doesn't care enough. I asked him why he didn't care enough, and he said he was so sorry, but he knows me to be a strong girl that never lets these petty things affect her. He's right, I normally ignore 99% of the racism and microaggressions I face in life, and even laugh at the ignorance. We even discussed this before, but does being strong mean that people are entitled to try to hurt me because I usually don't let them? Does it mean I wouldn't appreciate to feel support of my boyfriend having my back? Don't strong women deserve to be supported by their loved ones and feeling safe and loved? He couldn't answer this. I told him that I never want his sister in my life again, or his uncle, and probably not his mother either if she still wants me to apologize. I don't want to surround myself with people like them, and especially when I have children, and I asked him if he's willing to live like that. I asked him not to answer me now and think about it. It kind of felt like an ultimatum, and that's bad, but I didn't know how to handle the situation better. I never thought of myself as someone who's petty or that makes ultimatums. This experience taught me that I'm both. And thank you for the not the a-hole judgment. Okay, and we have one final comment from the boyfriend. This is the rightfully very much hated boyfriend speaking. I've read both posts and all your comments on the update. I'm overwhelmed with the amount of support my girlfriend has received. Overwhelmed and ashamed that total strangers on the internet have shown my girlfriend more support and love than I ever have. The person who's supposed to be the closest to her. I have failed to support my girlfriend and be her rock, but my only excuse is that I never done it out of malice. I thought I was protecting her from being hurt. I was wrong and I'm so sorry about that, but if there's any consolation, I did it out of love for her. There's no excuse for my passivity. There's only an explanation, and it's this. Because of my privilege, I made the wrong assessment of the incidents and deemed them, albeit hurtful, not really serious or harmful. I deemed them to be pathetic, ridiculous and petty. I was wrong, and I will not pretend that I need to be educated on racial inequality because I should have known all these things already. I can only promise that I'll have her back and be more active and alert moving forward. I choose her any day of the week, and I will have a talk with my family and make them apologize to her, and it's her decision to forgive them or not, but I choose her. It was never really a choice to begin with. She's my future wife and the mother of my future children. I've known this for years. I'm so sorry. Okay guys, and that's the end of that one. Yeah, super interesting to hear the perspective of the boyfriend as well. I feel like we very rarely get that. What did you guys think of that one? Would you be willing to forgive the boyfriend for these indiscretions? Or would you think he's too far for saving and dump him? Let me know. Ex's girlfriend expects me to take her kids for a weekend. So, some background info that is relevant. My ex is not actually my ex. We've been separated for 9 years now, but we've never actually signed papers for numerous reasons, financial being the biggest one. We've co-parented our son well for those years, and for the past 8 years, we've included my boyfriend in the process. We've been doing quite well at this, and the three of us have established a pretty good relationship. 2 years ago, however, my ex got a new girlfriend. Her and I don't get along, mainly on her part. And no, I don't just say this because it's my side. I've always encouraged my son to respect her and try to get along with her, but he can't stand her or her 2 daughters. I don't mind her youngest. She's hyper and bounces off the wall, but she's 8. It's to be expected. The oldest one, 11, the same age as my son, however, is she's a B. She actively belittles and ridicules her little sister, my son, and my daughter, 6. She's rude to me, my ex-in-laws, and even my ex. This girl is absolutely out of control. Background out of the way. Last weekend was my son's weekend at his father's. However, my ex and his girlfriend have been invited to an adult party. My ex and I were discussing it when he dropped my son off on Wednesday, and he mentioned that it might be easier if we switched weekends around, but he wasn't sure if he could find a babysitter for the 2 girls, so we had to wait and see. I was fine with that, and told him to just keep me informed. Later that night, his girlfriend sent me a message, saying that since I was taking my son for the weekend, number 1, I could just take the 2 girls and keep them for the weekend too. Before I could even respond to this, she added that she would send them over clothes and some money so we could get a pizza. I told her that I wouldn't be taking her girls, that I wasn't taking my son for the weekend, that he lives with me, and that his father and I were just switching weekends around, and I certainly wasn't taking her children for the weekend. She sent a message back, saying that it was very rude of me to not take her girls, since she took my son every other weekend. Before I could respond, again, she sent another message saying she'd send over $15 for pizza. I told her that she didn't take my son on the weekends, that my son spent the weekends with his father, and reiterated again that I wouldn't be taking her girls. She responded asking what I was doing that I couldn't take the girls. I told her we weren't doing anything, we were just going to have a nice relaxing weekend. She asked why I would ruin her and my ex's weekend by not taking the girls. By this point I was annoyed, and told her that I didn't like her oldest daughter, and she was a brat, and she wasn't allowed in my home outside of emergency situations. She responded by saying that I was an awful person, a terrible mother, and I didn't deserve children since I clearly didn't understand parents who just need a break. I ended up blocking her, but dang. Man, it's been a while since I've read an entitled parent story, but we're starting off strong with this one. Let's look at some comments. Be on the lookout for those kids showing up at your door and her car being gone by the time you answer it. If possible, try to plan not being home when this situation might occur. Take your son out for the day somewhere and document it on social media. Have those texts saved that explicitly told her you would not be watching her kids. Have your ex set her straight on child seeing his dad on weekends, not the girlfriend. That you are in no way responsible for her 2 kids, and if she oversteps with the attitude again, there will be a problem. Haha, right. I'm sure as a parent yourself there's no way you would ever understand needing a break. Being sarcastic. Seriously, her kids, her problem. Okay, now for an edit from OP. Wow, firstly, thank you for all the awards. I was just griping about my ex's girlfriend, lol. Didn't expect all this. Secondly, while I've tried to respond to a lot of you, as a few general points. 1. I don't know where the girl's biological dad is. Ex's girlfriend is from the West Coast. We live on the East Coast, and I've never felt it in my place to ask. 2. She doesn't end up raising my son on the weekends. My ex knows our son isn't a fan, so they typically go fishing, camping or hiking. My ex loves our son and spends as much time with him as possible. 3. No, I did not call the 11-year-old a B to her face, or to her mother's face. I told her mother she was a brat, yes. If that makes me a terrible person, well, then so be it. 4. I have screenshot the pictures of our convo, and I plan on talking to my ex when he picks up our son on Wednesday. I currently haven't heard from either of them, so I guess we'll see if she tries to drop them off tonight at 6, lol. Edit 2. So I just got off the phone with my ex, who called to ask when I'd agreed to take the kids, since last he knew that wasn't happening. I sent him screenshots of the conversation, explained that I'd never agreed to take either girl, and told him I was quite clear with her on that. He said he was sorry, and he'd handle it, and that I'd see him on Wednesday when he picks our son up. Okay, now for a quick update. I edited the original post to add what had happened, but apparently not a lot of people saw it since I'm still getting messages and comments asking for an update. The night in question, when she'd wanted to drop her kids off, my ex called me at 5 p.m, an hour before the usual pick-up and drop-off time for my son is. He asked if I'd agreed to take the 2 girls, since he knew I wasn't overly fond of having them over, but the girlfriend had said yes. I told him that I quite clearly told her no, in no uncertain terms, and told him to check his email, and that I'd emailed him screenshots of the convo after it happened. He sounded upset and told me he apologised and he'd discuss it with her. I see our son next weekend. He picked our son up yesterday for a few hours and apologised again, and told the girlfriend that she was not allowed to contact me unless it was an emergency situation, and she was never to ask me to babysit again. I told him I understood, it wasn't anything on him, and left it at that. An actual good and understanding ex-boyfriend there. Good to hear that he was rational and he was able to talk to his partner about it, and set some clear boundaries in the process. Anyway, that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think in the comments and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was posted on the Am I the A-hole subreddit. It was written by user Wild Analyst, and it's titled, Am I the A-hole for not wanting to close my girlfriend's closet? My girlfriend and I have been together for almost 3 years now. We get along well and didn't fight much, which is why I'm confused over this situation. Girlfriend lives on her own in an apartment and works full-time, whereas I'm still living with my parents until I finish college. I was originally planning on moving in with my girlfriend into her apartment once she renews her lease, until we had our disagreement. My girlfriend's place is pretty basic. I guess you can say it's got a modern and minimalist look. That is, until you go to her bedroom. There are a lot of these glow-in-the-dark stars all over her closet door and wall. I remember when I asked her about it, she told me that when she was young, she experienced a traumatic event. To help with her anxiety, she placed the stars as a guide to help her see if there was a silhouette either in front of the door or if the door was open. I don't know if that makes sense. She said she only asked that I keep the door closed, especially at night. I was understandable about the situation, so when I first spent the night over, I made sure to check if the closet was closed while she slept earlier. Months went by and there were instances where I did accidentally forget to close it. She'd wake up the next day and ask me about it. Hey, did you forget to close the door last night? I apologised for it, and she'd say something like, please don't forget next time. I had no problem with it at first, though lately it's been getting annoying. It felt like that's all she wanted to talk about first thing in the morning. I voiced my feelings on it one day, and she just responded by saying, well then please close the door, it's not that hard. I sometimes deal with sleep paralysis. I got irritated by that because it felt like she just wanted a reason to nag me. One day, I went over to visit her. I decided to purposefully leave the closet door open while she slept in her bed, while I slept on the living room couch just to see what would happen. Assumed nothing happened since I didn't hear anything. However, the next day when I woke up, she was sitting at the kitchen table looking like she'd been crying since her eyes were puffy. Before I could even say a word, she said, "I've told you many times that I wanted that closet door closed. It's all I ever asked of you and you can't even do that." Here's where I might be the a-hole. I got angry that she was already nagging me about this first thing in the morning, so I told her that she's a grown woman and can't rely on some dumb stickers to help her over something that happened to her years ago, and she needed to get over it. She told me to leave, so I did because I was mad. It's been a week since then and I haven't heard anything from her. I don't want to break up over this, but I want to know if what I said was wrong. My parents and friends are saying my girlfriend is being dramatic, but I want some unbiased opinions on the subject. Edit. I want to clarify that my girlfriend never leaves the closet door open. I would go in to get something and would occasionally forget, but the door also makes this unbearable squeaking noise when you're trying to close it back up, so that's why I also leave it as it is. Boyfriend ignoring girlfriend's past trauma, making himself the victim because she's quote-unquote nagging him? Yeah, it sounds like he's the a-hole here. Let's look at the comments. You judge her about wanting one thing for her comfort, and I hear whining about she bothered me in the morning. You being unable to think of one single simple thing is somehow her fault because she only expects this of you because she wants to nag you? Do you hear yourself? You intentionally went over to trigger her as some kind of revenge, and when she is suffering, you again whine about it being morning? You're the a-hole. OP, I'm completely disgusted by you. Your girlfriend is supposed to be someone you love and care about, but you don't care about her trauma at all. I hope she's dumping you. I hope she finds a partner who loves her and that you can't sucker her back into a relationship. You should stay living with mummy and daddy and leave nice women alone. She deserves better than you. So you knew that having the closet open was something that triggered her immensely to a point where she's crying, yet you did it anyways? You're the a-hole. The freaking audacity of men like you complaining of their partners nagging them when they repeatedly fail to do one simple thing asked of them. If you'd just been a considerate partner, she wouldn't need to keep asking. You're the a-hole. She asked one simple thing of you that clearly means a great deal to her and is incredibly easy for you to comply with. You deliberately did what she asked you not to do, as some sort of stupid test, then insulted her when she was upset by your actions. I doubt it matters whether or not you want to break up. It sounds to me as though your ex-girlfriend has already made up her mind about the matter. Opie replies, "She's not my ex, we haven't broken up. And is it wrong to make sure someone isn't lying about something so serious?" Okay, now for the girlfriend's post. I dumped my boyfriend for leaving my closet door open. Sorry if the title sounds clickbaity. My ex posted on Am I the A-hole with the Am I the A-hole for not wanting to close my girlfriend's closet, and I just wanted a place to respond. My now ex-boyfriend and I, we were together for 2 years. Would have been 3 years next month. We met through a mutual friend, my roommate at the time, because of our similar interests. For context, I've lived in my apartment for about 4 years. The mutual friend stayed in the beginning, but they moved 3 years ago. So since then, I've been living on my own. I was originally going to have my boyfriend move in with me once my lease ended, but of course, change of plans. So my ex posted on Am I the A-hole for leaving my closet door open, yet he missed very important details. One question that kept appearing was why I didn't close the door, even though I never leave it open. Ever since I was little, I trained my brain to always make sure the closet door was closed. I'll add a trigger warning here just in case, but when I was 6, I was sharing a room with my older sister. One night, she went over her friend's house for a sleepover. My parents and I got home a bit late. I remember it being hot since we had the AC on. I went to bed but was tossing and turning because it's really hot. I kept hearing a noise from somewhere, but wasn't sure from where, and just assumed it was the AC. I laid on my back just staring at the roof and heard my closet door being open. My bed was faced towards the closet, so when I moved my head down, I could see this old man coming out of it. I screamed and my parents came running in. My dad grabbed me and I saw my mum hitting that man with one of her favourite pans. We called the police and later found out that the man was homeless, must have snuck in while we were away, and hid in my closet when he heard my parents' car come in. Since then, I've suffered from PTSD in fear of someone coming into my closet again. I slept with my parents for a few years after that. We moved to another state once I hit high school. Parents got me a therapist when the incident occurred, and to this day, I'm still going to therapy. I felt like it wasn't working though because I was just like venting and the therapist would go, and how does that make you feel? Instead of suggesting something to help me. That was until my current therapist. She suggested that I could use something like a nightlight and place it by my closet. Then I asked if I should use something else, like something that could stick onto the walls. It was first these big glow-in-the-dark dino stickers. I felt kind of silly about it at first when I did put it up, but when I had my sleep paralysis, I was still scared, but now was able to tell what was sleep and what wasn't, and it gave me a sense of comfort. I changed the themes occasionally to dinos, planets, and now stars. For the past 7 years, it's worked for me. I moved out of my parents' home at 20 to live in an apartment with my friend who I met in college. I only went for 2 years. I explained to her about my situation because we shared a room, and there's only one closet. She understood me completely. She only ever left it open once when she came home from a night shift. She was remorseful and never did it again when she saw how bad I suffered from it. Now to my ex. We pretty much clicked when we met. Had similar hobbies, liked exploring new foods, it was fun. I also told him about my trauma. Asked that I didn't mind it being open during the day, but at night it needs to be closed, no matter what. He could still put or take something out of it, but to close it back up. He complied throughout the entirety of our relationship. It wasn't until a few months ago where he started to act very controlling. He would say small comments about certain foods I would eat, like how it's affecting my liver or something, and recommend other things. I brushed it off thinking he's just looking out for my health. It started getting to a point where he suggested I quit my job at one point when he finished college and moved in, but I told him that it'd be beneficial for both of us to be working. He never asked again. However, he did start asking things like if I could cook for him, even though I said I was tired from work. Would I stop working if he made enough money for the both of us, if I still wanted kids? I think he wanted to ask me to become a stay-at-home mum or wife, but I could be overanalyzing. On the night before we broke up, when he decided to test me, I had the worst hallucinations since I was a teenager. I wake up, see the door open, and start to imagine the man I saw all those years ago. When I woke the next day, it was around 4 a.m. I was able to move and started to cry immediately to a point where I couldn't shed any more tears, and apart from the migraine from crying too hard, I felt a numbness. So when he woke up a few hours later, I waited for him in the kitchen, just honestly feeling tired. I didn't yell, just spoke in a monotone voice. I told him how I had one rule, and that was to close the door. He got defensive, saying he felt like I was lying about my trauma just to see if he would care for me. I told him to leave while I thought things over. I never ignored him and he never texted me the whole week, but now I know for sure that there's no saving this relationship, and you can get your stuff from your brother. I already told him what you did, so good luck. I'll be moving in with my sister out of town. I'm not renewing my lease. I just want to be with people who actually support me. Wow, that was really interesting. I love hearing both sides of the story. Not that there's much room for argument or anything. I think what's right and what's wrong is pretty clear here. And it's good to hear that the girlfriend cut him out of her life. People who like to test other people to see if their trauma is real, seriously, that's just a major red flag. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about this one in the comments and we'll go to our next story. Okay, this next one was written by a throwaway account and posted on Relationship Advice. It's titled, I, female 18, seem to only attract guys who are only interested in my reputation. I've never been the popular girl that all the guys came after, but in the last couple of months I've been receiving a lot more attention. I put it down to losing a bit of weight and having a better understanding of makeup and dress sense. But after an awful date last night with a very cute guy who turned into a piece of crap when I wouldn't give him head, revealed the true reason why I've received the sudden influx in male attention. Apparently someone started a rumour that I give head on first dates and put out very easily. I don't know who started this rumour or why, but it's really affecting my self-esteem. All these guys are only after one thing and never really had any interest in me as a person. I'm not sure what to do or how to move forward. No more dates for me, I guess. I can't wait until I can move away from this small town bullcrap. What should I do? Is this situation salvageable, or how can I combat these rumours? Any advice on how to handle this situation would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Oh man, some people are just horrible. Let's go to the comments. I think it's all about meeting the right guys. People that believe those kinds of rumours are jerks and idiots. If you meet a genuine guy, he won't pressure you or even consider asking for head on a first date. And don't let them get to you. Their goal is to get you flustered and angry. Showing any attention to it is just going to give them what they want. Next time you hear it, just say, "Oh what? That's not true," and then move on. If you manage to find out who did it, fight fire with fire. I did it because he wouldn't stop begging and talking about being lonely. He's got a huge birthmark covering his whole shaft. He came just from rubbing his pants. He has pubes all the way up on his head. You get the idea. Harsh reality. That's a common experience for women your age, not just you. Many, many men are only interested in dating if they think they can get something sexual out of it. Yeah, harsh reality. That comment's spot on. Let's go to the update. Update. Thanks for all the kind messages and advice. I took on board what most of you said. Every guy that slid into my DMs has been told up front that the rumours are false and to move along if that's why they're messaging me. Most ghosted me after that, so it's worked to weed out the bad apples. My friend, through her boyfriend, helped uncover the source of the rumours. Apparently most of the guys in town are a part of this secret group chat where they share pics and stories of their conquests. Why her boyfriend is a part of this group is beyond me, but at least he had the decency to share screenshots of the conversation about me. So this one guy made up a story about me and lied about hooking up with me and that I was a blowjob queen. When the other guys started asking questions, he doubles down on his lies. This is when other guys start asking me out on dates, and the group asks for updates on how good my blowjobs are. Most of the guys lie too and say I sucked them off after one date, so the rumours spread like wildfire, and they're all too insecure to admit to the group that I didn't do anything with them. 6 out of the 5 guys I went on dates with lied about me hooking up with them. I confronted the guy who started the rumour. He was extremely nervous and shy about the whole thing and eventually broke down when I pushed him harder. He cried and kept apologising, but I was too mad to accept his apology. I told him to tell everyone he lied and spread false rumours. I watched him as he shook as he typed up his confession to the group chat, showing me the evidence that he sent it, so I left him to his tears. Since then, he's been messaging me constantly, trying to justify why he did it. Had a crush on me for years, wanted to ask me out but was too shy. Jealous when the other guy started to notice me when I had my glow up, even though he had a crush on me before that. Eventually, I had to block him. Yeah, that guy sounds pretty pathetic. Great to hear OP got him to confess to all his friends and embarrassed the hell out of him in the meantime. Yeah, he won't forget about that anytime soon. Anyway, folks, that's the end of that one, and that's all for today. Thanks for making it to the end. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.